billions, billion, trillions, trillion, million, 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 billion, 400 billion suns, billion, trillion, million, billion, trillions of orbiting snowballs, billion, 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 trillions, million, 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 billion, 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 million, billion, 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 million, million, billion, 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 million, million, millions, billion, million, 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 billion, billion, 4 billion-year-old tree, tens of billions. I have trillions, billions, billion, trillions, billion, 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 billions, billion, million, billion, billion, trillion, millions, million, million, millions, million, billion, 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 billions, million, billions, billion, millions, million, million, millions, billion, billion years, 100 million. It took nature hundreds of millions of years to evolve a bacterium, and billions of years to make a grasshopper. Billions, trillion, billion, million, 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 billion kilometers from the sun. Saturn, 1.5 billion, Uranus, 3 billion, and Neptune, 4.5 billion kilometers. Billions, billion, million, billion, billions, billion other galaxies, each of which contains something like 100 billion, million, 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 billion, millions, million, million, billion, million, tens of billions of years in the far future. Billion, million, billions, million, millions, billion, million, 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 billion, million of them, million, billion, millions, or billions, billions, millions, millions, billions of G's, billions, million, billion, million, millions, billions, billion, or million, billions, million, tens of millions of degrees. Billion, million, billion, billion, million, billion, billion, billions, million, billion, billion, million, billions, millions, millions, billion, billion, million, billions, million, billion, billion, million, billion, 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 billions, billions, quadrillion, millions, million, billions, billion, billions, million, million, millions, million, billions, billions, billion, billion, million, million, billion, trillion, billion, billion, millions, 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 billion, trillion, million, trillion, million, million, millions, million, million, trillion, billion, 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 million, billions, billions, billion, 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 trillion, billion, billion, billions, billion, 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 million, billion, million, billions, million, billion, million, million, billions, million, million, billions, billion, billions, billion, 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 trillions, billion, million, billion, million, million, trillion, billion, million, billion, 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 billion.
I love that video. Not the ending. I could care less about Carl Sagan. I think someone made it as a tribute. I don't know. For me, it's hilarious. But sorry about, actually, I am early. The goal was 8 p.m. Sorry. But normally I try to come on earlier. Normally I try to do like somewhere between 3 and 4 p.m. But I was working on a video. I released Bloopers from Space, second edition, with 109 more bloopies. So I dropped that today, and several people had asked for more bloopers, and I tried to add links for as many as I could. So yeah, that's what I was working on today. And this stream probably won't be too long today. I don't know how long we'll go, but it's family night for me. So, but hello, everyone. Thought I'd start with saying hi to everyone. We don't have too many people in, 13 people. Blessings to you, Henry. Set to two. Walter Slater, namaste. If I'm saying that right. Christy Lee Dolls, good to see you. I see your comments from time to time on the videos. They will not defeat us all. Well, I hope not. I'm trying to do my part. Y2 Jordy, Skeptic 936, 109 bloopers. Yep. So I could have made it 1,000 bloopers, honestly, because every time I go hunting for a video, when I try to look for a source, I find 5 more bloopers, right? Like I've still got like, I don't know, 20 tabs open of bloopers I could have pulled down. They're never ending. I think everyone, we should all watch these videos that they release one a day or something. And then if we had some central repository, we could do 1,000 blooper. marathon space bloopers. I'd love to see those go in multiple languages. I'd love to like donate the slideshow I made to someone that speaks Italian, someone that speaks German, someone that speaks. I'd upload it where people could download it and make their own, right? In other languages, I'd love to see it in with their face, right? Like I don't want any credit for it. Don't need any credit for it. I just want to get it out there. But so what's new, people? Dating as a flat earther. You might have to get this flat earth, sun, moon, and zodiac clock app. I don't know. That's I haven't been in the single scene for a while. I can imagine that'd be difficult. I lose friends over this. Man, I do. I lose friends over it. I can imagine how hard it would be to be on a, what do you bring that? I don't know. Like, I'm curious. Do you just address that like right on day one, or do you wait till like you're in a relationship and then drop it on them? Most of my friends think I'm nuts, but luckily my real friends love me just the same. Right. But they think it's hilarious every time I talk about it. But it's funny because I teach jujitsu and a lot of my students are flat earthers. Like it amazes me. Like it's, one of my students will be joking on me, right? And he'll bring it up and another student will go, later on, they'll talk to me at the end of class. They go, I'm a flat earther too. So's my husband, that's pretty crazy. I think that's awesome. Right. Cause I talk about it with everybody. I don't hide the fact. Day one. Yeah. I think if I was dating, I'd try to find someone on like a Joe Hill. You want to come in? Actually, anyone can come in. I love it when Joe joins me. Let me drop this. What the heck? Joe, if you're free and you want to jump in, and anyone can use that link. If you want to jump in and drop some flat earth testimony, that's the whole point of this. I'm not very good at monologuing. I've said it 1,000 times. I just like talking to people about flat earth and hearing their stories. My story goes back to my mom. My mom was telling me the earth was flat for a few months, and I was telling her, don't mention that around my friends. And she just kept telling me to debunk it. And one day I tried, and then that's turned into a 10-year thing. Wow. My son said that God said he shouldn't talk to me for a while. Wait, your son's saying that God said he shouldn't talk to your son or to you? I'm unclear about that. I asked him in the name of God. He didn't know. Right. Yeah, there are no globers. There's only people who believe it's a globe. Any Kingdom in Context fans? Sean Griffin. Oh, I'm a Joe Hill fan too. I gotta admit that. I do enjoy.
Sorry, I was just getting away with one of these trucks.
Yeah, you working?
I didn't know this was gonna happen. Sorry.
That's all right.
How's it going?
Good. Looks like you're busy today.
No, not really. I'm just bumming around and at my friend's brother's house, and he just brought a bunch of. They were doing a job, and they just got a bunch of trucks back here. So.
All right. What kind of job they doing? Yep. What are you helping with?
My buddy got a different motorcycle, and he was bleeding the brakes on it and the clutch.
You ride motorcycles, Joe?
Yeah, I got an 83
I didn't know that.
Goldwing.
Okay.
And I love it.
All right. I used to ride. I've been thinking about getting a bike again. I got a buddy of mine that always goes up and rides the Dragon with some friends, but
It's fun, dangerous, and
you know what I'm talking about, Joe, when I say the Dragon, right?
I'm not sure.
I think it's in North Carolina. There's like a really windy trail that goes up there, and I think it's called the Dragon, right? It's very people all around. I hear people call it the Dragon all the time.
And they go for the tour or whatever.
Yeah, they'll drive from out of state. It's called. Let me see, the Dragon. That sounded kind of weird when I said that.
The Dragon, you mean?
Yeah, Deal's Gap. It's Deal's Gap, Tail of the Dragon.
Okay.
That's what they call it.
There's a road.
So what's new, Joe?
Not too much. Not too much. I'm learning some, and like in church or about the Bible, there's like common knowledge or what I would consider to be like given or whatever, like people understand it a certain way. I'm learning, like I'm finding out that I'm having a hard time knowing what common knowledge is when it comes to like the story in the Bible, because I find things that seem to be like that I've never thought about them before. But some of those apocryphal books and the Bible, when I'm reading them, it's like there's some things in there I've never thought about. Like, when one that's blown my mind lately is when Jesus was crucified, right? I don't understand, and I never have understood what that's all about. Do you know what I'm saying? That he would rise 3 days later from the dead. Like that was prophesied from like way back in Enoch and stuff, like for a long time before it happened. And I'm like reading in, I think it's in Matthew, and I don't remember exactly where, but I just put a video up about it on my TikTok and my YouTube, but I can't remember which chapter it was, but it was saying how it was when Jesus, like, when he was saying, "Why do you forsake me?" or whatever, and then he gave up the ghost. And when he did that, the whatever in the temple was torn. I forget what it's called. And then an earthquake happened, and it was dark. There was darkness over the land for 3 hours, and an earthquake happened, and rocks rent or whatever. And then one of the, I don't know if it was Caiaphas, I think, one of the people there was like, they saw all that happen after he gave up the ghost, and he's like, truly this was the Son of God, because he saw all these things like in reality changing, and like earthquakes and stuff like that. And then it said that that people saw the graves were opened up, and people arose from the grave and were seen by people going into the holy city. And I always used to understand that kind of like as a zombie type of thing, like people coming up out of their graves and like walking into town, But I was reading that, it was on Austin, the Melodome's channel. And right when I read it, and Austin got the same thing right when he read it, he's like, that's not talking about that Jerusalem. That's talking about the one in the sky. And so, hell is beneath the earth, right? It's in the heart of the earth. That's where Jesus descended for 3 days into the heart of the earth. Well, in the first book of Adam and Eve, there's prophecy of the resurrection, and Jesus actually was telling Adam, because Adam was like begging to go back into the garden or whatever, and Jesus is like, not until the time is fulfilled or whatever, because you transgressed or whatever. And so it was like Jesus said, when not until the day that I descend into hell and break the bars of brass and the kingdoms of iron or something. And it says that somewhere in Psalms too, like the same phrase. And so I don't think hell exists in the earth or beneath the earth at all. I think Jesus entirely removed it.
Oh, you're saying he changed
He
it?
changed
Because it was right. The Book of Enoch, he describes the two the two caverns separated by a chasm.
Yes, yeah, that place. I think that place is up in like the third heaven or something. And there's like, it's one of those things. I feel like, is this common knowledge that there was already a whole world of people that were in Sheol? And here's the reason why I kind of come across that too. You know, in the book of Enoch, it says that Enoch is the seventh from Adam, like seventh generation from Adam, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if we look up like from Adam until Jesus, there was 77 generations. So 70 between Enoch and Jesus. And in the book of Enoch, because you know, Semyaza or whatever, the like and his associates,
the head angel.
The fallen angels. Well, Michael the archangel is told, he's told to go bind Semyaza in the valleys of the earth for 70 generations. And then it says until the judgment that is forever is consummated. And it says, in those days they shall be led off to the abyss of fire. And I'm like, okay, so the fallen angels, they're in the earth until Jesus comes. He descends down into hell, and then they're led off to the abyss of fire. It's just kind of mind-blowing to me. It's something I've never considered in that way.
No, like I think I'm like you, Joe. I've read the book of the book I've read the most is the Book of Enoch. Well, I audiobooked it. So
yeah,
I audiobooked it 5 times, but I'm sitting there, you know, doing framing and drywall in an addition I was making. And it took a few months and I just kept putting on Book of Enoch.
Yep.
Yeah, I believe we're at the end of times. The way from what everything I've read in the Bible, everything I've read from Revelation, everything and it's coming up on that 6,000 years. Like the irony is, it's like we're at this time in history where, you know, if civilization, if it were 10,000 years from now, yeah, none of this would make sense, right? You'd be like, well, should have happened 4,000 years ago. We're at the time it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
We're at the end of those generations, and we're seeing so many of these signs.
We're seeing
that's why
things happen, which is like mind blowing because, I mean, even Jesus even says that. He's like, when his disciples asked him, like, why do you speak to everyone in parables? And he's like, because it's given to you to know the kingdom or the mysteries of the kingdom of God, but to them it's not given. And so he spoke to them in parables to try to get them to understand that way, I guess. But I think he could just as well be saying that to us, saying it's given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of God, because I think that's what we've been learning. Like flat earth, I'm saying that whole topic, you know, when he said you'll be hated for my name's sake. Well, what's his name? What would his name be in that? I don't think it's the letters in his name or like Yeshua or Yahusha, or I don't think it's that. I think it's his word, what he declared, what he spoke. If you don't believe that, I think you're going to be led astray no matter what. If you don't believe what it says in Genesis, and he even said that to Nicodemus. He said, if you, how are you going to believe, or how are you going to believe earthly or heavenly things if you don't even believe me about earthly things?
Yeah.
Like how could he? Yeah. And then he also said something about believing Moses, what Moses wrote. And I'm thinking like Moses wrote Genesis, right? And I think that creation account is what is being like declared in the world. Like maybe even angels are like shouting it out to people or something. And I think we're able to pick up on that.
Yeah. Let me ask you,
Yeah.
Where are you with Torah? You know, or do you try to follow? Are you Torah observant at all, or do you like? What are your thoughts on that?
I think the phrase, like especially the phrase Torah observant.
Yeah.
There's people that say that they walk in his ways, or there's a lot of phrases that get used. Or I would say this: Jesus said, "If you love me, follow my commandments." And I think that's when people are saying that I think Sean Griffin has a good point of view on this. And I didn't really think about the point of view until I heard him say it. He's saying, don't get scared by the words follow Torah or whatever, or following the commandments, or they're not done away with. Like that whole idea of being done away with, nobody ever did that. That was never supposed to be. I think that God's commandments, like if we're talking about the 10 commandments,
they're eternal.
I think they're essential.
Yeah.
And I think that, like Sean says, he'll talk to people and they'll say, no, I'm not Torah observant. But then if you look at their life, you'll find out they actually are. They're actually following all these commandments, and they might not consider themselves to be Torah observant. Do you know what I'm saying?
Most of the 613 commandments are just like very simple morals. Like the majority of it, if you were to read through it, is, be good to your neighbor.
They're directed to certain groups or people, like men, like about shaving their beards or something. Is that a commandment for women? No. It's like I think that the 10 commandments are pretty clear, pretty simple. Most of us live somewhat by them. I think the Sabbath is probably one that is in our day was a deception, I think.
Yeah.
But
and that's one of the, if you want to say the Big 10, right? Like whatever you want to.
Yeah.
I keep the Sabbath. I do my best to keep the Sabbath, right? I don't work. Today's my day of rest.
Yeah.
I don't consider the worst. I'll make a video, but I enjoy that, right? Like that's odd to me.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. What are you making a video for? It's for good.
Well, that's what. And if you enjoy it, I don't think it's work, right? I consider that keeping the Sabbath. If I enjoy doing something.
Jesus would heal people on the Sabbath, and the Pharisees would flip out on him. And then he would say, is it wrong to do good on the Sabbath? Like me and my father work all the time. That's what he said. We're always working like in that way. So I think, and like my opinion's just my opinion, but I think that there is I don't know what you call it, like a kind of like a buzz or something about following Torah. First of all, I think for someone to say they're Torah observant might be a little bit weird to say that, because I don't think anyone is. I think there's a lot of people that try to be, and long to be, and put everything they have in it to be, but I don't think anyone's perfect. So
no,
that's just my opinion, though.
Yeah, I don't eat pork. I don't eat any shellfish or anything like that. Like I try to learn, right? Like anything, I just try to learn more about it. And the more I learn, I try to keep the feast days. I keep the Sabbath. I try to, every time I learn another command, I do my best.
When you learn about it and it becomes something that you kind of understand, or something that you grasp the idea of why it would be set aside or set apart or whatever. Up until then, there'd be no way to really observe those days if you don't even know what they are.
Yeah.
Like, you get what I'm saying?
True.
Like,
yeah, we don't know the real calendar. That's a problem. Like people are guessing what feast days are. Like they can't say. And then
what is Sabbath? Is Sabbath the every seventh day, or is it Saturday, or is it does it go by the moon? Does it go by, like, there's a lot of different. We were born in the most messed up time.
They hit everything, right? All you can do is try, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like an example that just came to mind is when we read in Enoch. Okay, I'm sure most everybody here, if you're married, your wife wears makeup. Like that was wearing makeup to like be seductive and whatever. That was taught by the fallen angels to people. The what is it? It talks about the whatever, the eyeliner or something like that. So when if I was to say something about that and say, well, the fallen angels taught men to do, or women to put on makeup, does that mean I'm saying that it's a horrible thing to wear makeup? No, I don't, because we live in 2023. We were born in this generation. That's the reality we were born into.
Yeah.
And so like in Isaiah, I don't know, 45 or something, God's talking about how he didn't cause us to do any sacrifices or to do to bring him part of, like, I don't know how it words it, but and he said he served he served with us in that, and like we dragged him along through whatever sin we were doing. And then he says, for my name's sake I will blot out your transgressions. And I think that's really significant today, because we were born into a time when pretty much everything we do is a transgression. Like the way we think, the way we just, I mean, the things we believe, there's wickedness all over in the world. I mean, that's what we've been learning just about, like planets and about space and all this stuff too. It's all evil.
Yeah, it's they've made it almost impossible to do the right thing. You don't know
Yes.
what day is what day. You don't know what the cosmology is. You don't know anything, right? So, but I do believe, like someone said, what we're condemned if we eat shall. I don't believe that, right? Like I believe the number one thing is believing in Jesus Christ, and you're forgiven for your sins. But I do think your place in heaven, or well, in New Jerusalem, is determined. You're judged, right? You are judged, right? And some people, it says throughout the Bible in multiple places that some people are are higher than others, right? Like
lesser in the kingdom of God.
Yeah. So if I learn I don't need to eat pork. What's it hurt me? You can eat chicken. You can eat steak. There's other things you can eat, right? I don't need to eat shellfish. It's nothing I miss, right? There's so many things that's.
My whole life I did, but just some of the things I've read in the Old Testament about pork, about swine, I don't think it's good. So I personally, I would never tell anyone else what to do, but personally, I just don't do that anymore. I used to eat bacon and stuff. I just don't.
Yeah. I don't remember the last time I had any kind of pork. I don't even know. It's been years.
But you get what I'm saying. Like that, I think a lot of these things are exactly what you were saying. When you learn something, then you can maybe like think about practicing it, or what you feel is right, what you feel God would want his disciples to do, But I think to know, it's hard. I mean, we could get rid of the Gregorian calendar and live by the phases of the moon and have 13 months and have every cycle of the moon phases be the same day every week. It'd be like a really easy calendar, I think. But that's not what we do in this world. We were born in the that's just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah. These are part of reality. You can't go into your job and be like, well, I'm not calling Sunday anymore because I don't like the idea. Well, everyone else at work calling it Sunday. They won't know what you're talking about if you don't call it Sunday. You know what I mean? So, but yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I've just been trying to learn about this idea of hell or Sheol being basically destroyed. Jesus has the keys he conquered death and hell. Like, I think that's why when I'm, kind of thinking of the bottomless pit being the solar system.
Yeah. That's an interesting view. For me, it's still below. I'd have to read and in context what you've read. Maybe I haven't read that or didn't comprehend, or I'd like to read exactly what you read. But like for me, my understanding is, yeah. Well, I just use Bible Gateway.
Okay. Can you look something up? Just, it might be interesting for you to look up in the book of Isaiah, chapter 14. verse 9 is very interesting.
So verse 9 says, hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations.
So hell from beneath is moved. What is that talking about?
Well, I mean,
don't understand. I know.
Moved could be shook too, right? Like you'd have to go look at the transliteration and then compare all the, it could be, if hell's moved, it could be
hell from beneath is moved for thee. So if it's moved from beneath, I'm just saying, I don't know if that is referring to that, but it was an interesting verse.
No, I'm like the dumbest guy in the world when it comes to the Bible, Joe. Like the last thing I would do is argue with you. I'm like,
we all are. We're all in the status of learning, and if we're not, if we know everything in the Bible, that means you know nothing. So,
and there's so many people that I can just listen to them. They know the Bible inside and out, right? I'm one of those guys where I can read a chapter and barely remember. I can get the gist of it, but I could never quote it. Like, I don't think I know. I think I know like one verse from not even a verse. I know one excerpt from the Bible, and I'd probably mess it up if I tried to say it.
There's some though that they're just inside of you. Maybe not the exact wording, but what it says is something that is. It's like it's.
I think it's written on your heart. Yeah. Right. And when I read something that the Bible says is wrong, I change that and correct that action. Those are the things I remember, right? Like the things that we're supposed to do and the things that we're not supposed to do. Right. And the stories change you.
Yes. That reminds me of Revelation 14, I think it is, or maybe it's not, but when it's talking about those who are with him, like following the Lamb, it says they follow the Lamb whithersoever he goes, like wherever he goes. And that always gives me the idea of like, they don't know where they're going. They're following him in faith. They're right behind him in faith. They don't know where they're headed. Like, that's kind of what I feel like. Like, I don't know. Right. I mean, I think I know sometimes, but then I'm like, I don't really know.
And it's funny. Rune said, the only one I know is Psalm 19:1. That's the one I know. So it's yeah, that's the one we learned first, right? Default as a flat earther.
Yeah. But look at that verse. That's an important one. Like, especially since the rocket dude put it on his gravestone. That's interesting. But yeah.
Yep, Werner von Braun. Yep.
So what else is new, Bobby?
Nothing, man. Nothing. Just trying to get someone on and talk about their testimony. People are always emailing me and messaging me saying, dude, I want to come on and talk about it, but
yeah,
it's hard. It's hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Every time you have people on, it's like, it's great to hear just the different points of view. Like, I like the different points of view. I like when someone makes me think of something different than I thought about it. Even if I don't agree with it, I still think it's healthy to have that extra point of view from someone else, even if you don't agree with it or believe it or anything. But just to know that other people think that about it, it just gives you kind of a better idea. Or I guess it seems like it gives you a better idea of, what to believe and whatnot.
Yeah. But this community though, the flat earth community, I can connect with, right? Like,
yeah,
going outside of my house and having to interact with people that have no idea the true reality, the true nature that we live in, man. And it's weird. It's hard. It's weird, right? It's hard, weird, yeah. Being a part of society.
Like I follow some people on TikTok, and like they're like Christian channels or whatever, TikToks, where they mostly just talk about God, and they'll have people in and talk, and I'll just go and listen or whatever, and I'll say hi and whatever, and you get to know people a little after you go in there a few times or whatever, and and just kind of commenting a couple times. But what's interesting is goes through my mind. I'm like the place I'm at, just was listening to them talk. Usually you can tell that they're in a different like mode, or I don't know what to call it. They're in a different.
Were you talking about? Are you talking about Christians that aren't flat earthers? Are you talking like?
Well, that's kind of the icebreaker. Is like,
Yeah.
in usually what I do if I'm wondering or if I want to kind of engage, I'll say, I'll just go into the comments and I'll do flat or globe, and it's always answered every time. It's answered. Like when I do TikToks, like of the sun or the moon, that's like it shows up in there 30, 40 times sometimes. Flat or globe? Everyone wants to know. What do you think? Flat or globe? And I think that if a person says, like for an example, this, I don't remember the name of her channel, but this lady that just goes live on TikTok and just talks about this stuff or whatever. I asked her flat or globe, and she goes flat, not a globe or whatever. But she wasn't interested in talking about it. But she surely believed that it was not a. So it's like, if someone tells me that, then it seems like they're already kind of learning about the same things that I'm learning about. I bet.
Right.
You know, in their closet.
You could go to dinner with them and have an interesting conversation, and you could relate to them.
Familiar talking points where we're not like, oh, I've never heard of that. You know,
I find it hard to relate to people that are globe earthers today. I do, because you go sit down and you hear what's important to them isn't important to me. I just want to stand up and go, dude, do you not realize we're at the end of times, right? Like that's what I want to do. Yeah. I just want to like shake them and go, you're asleep, bro. Why can't I wake you up?
Well, it's like with my dad. I have a good friendship with my dad, or relation. Like I see him every day. We kind of use the same shop to work out of. Like next Tuesday, he's helping me install some cabinets, and he's 70, so he's pretty. You know, he's slowing down or whatever. But when we talk about this stuff, he just doesn't he just doesn't get what I'm saying.
Is he Christian?
Yes.
That's the part that amazes me, right?
Me too.
Like someone that believes in God, and then you're like, bro, it's in the Bible. Like I can show you right here. Like here it is. Look, it's point blank. It's fixed. It's immovable. Stars are going to fall to earth, plural, right? Think about it.
Yep.
But
it's a mind-blowing thing to see. Like, one of my big things is isn't even the curvature or whatever. It's the rotation. This place is not in motion. Like if you say that to someone, is the ground in motion? If they tell you yes, I don't understand where they're coming from. Like, okay, even if I phrased the question, carefully and said, with your perception and your senses of this reality, is it in motion or is it at rest? The ground. Like, they'll say it's in motion. And I'm like my dad, he's like, everything's in motion, he says. I said, everything's moving. And I'm like, not the ground. Everything but the ground maybe is moving.
Yeah. We had the Dakota Carver. He was on the show before. How you doing, sir? See if he's just chime in.
I don't think I've heard him.
It's been a while. He was on maybe 2 months ago.
Okay.
There he is.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
You can, yeah.
Yeah, man. I heard what y'all was talking about, man. This is what happened to me last week. My son told him that his God told him he shouldn't talk to me no more because, I'm always talking crazy stuff like rights and freedom and flat earth and firmament. And so I asked him the name of his God, and he did not know. He never even thought about it. It was like, I wouldn't have cared if he said anything, as long as he would have had an answer. He didn't have an answer. So I spent this whole week calling different churches. I finally got one preacher to talk to me off the record, but I think they think I'm batshit crazy because, I believe certain things like the earth is flat and maybe I should do some of the commandments. I shouldn't eat pork. I should eat healthy. You know what I'm talking about? I don't eat pork. I haven't eaten pork in a long time. I'm trying to eat healthy. And I thought the commandments, the commandments are for me physically, and that grace and dispensation was for my soul.
Yes.
So why can't I? So why can't I do both? Why can't I celebrate the feast when I'm supposed to celebrate the feast and and obey the commandments, and then the grace and disposition is because I am a human and I sin, right? Ain't that it's both? Ain't it one or the other?
It is for
I
me.
think I think I'm crazy because nobody sees what you're saying,
No.
Bobby. When people say, "Look, I want to shake them," look, bro, don't you realize if Jesus don't come back in 300 more years, because that's about when the time is, it's still the end of times. Jesus is coming back. The Antichrist is coming. It's a battle for your soul, and I found out that we're all under a trust from the back before 1666. We're under this trust, a KB trust. You can look it up, canon law. Everything goes to canon law. Canon law is how our court systems run, our birth certificate, all this. When you die, all that court stuff, when you die, is them taking care of your Social Security, where they got money and taxes, and they got to hold your straw man. Wait, that is not correct. That's their term, like conspiracy theory. You don't use their terms. It's a corporate vessel, a corporate fictional corporate vessel, and that's why they all sell. So we're all under this, man, and nobody seems to know it, but like a handful of people.
Yeah,
a handful of people, just not very many people, and the problem I have is, like you say, nobody knows the time. The Catholic Church has changed the time. Catholic churches did this whole thing I'm telling you about. My dog's just messing up, but yeah. I have a podcast, and my podcast is, I was going to tell everybody that aliens are demons. That's the whole goal.
I agree. Absolutely.
My whole goal of my little podcast is to say aliens are demons, eat better, grow some food, and next thing you know, I found out, well, the Catholic Church changed the time. The Catholic Church runs all their religions. The Catholic Church owns my birth certificate and all kinds of crazy stuff. A whole judicial system's built on it, and that I'm not if I say that I'm a United States citizen, then that just takes away everything that God's doing for me, because our family has put us under their thing. I mean, my mom and my dad did it to me, and I did it to my kids. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to sign the birth certificate.
Yeah. Or social security number stuff too. It's like that's kind of what I was saying to Bobby, is that we're finding ourselves, like, I don't know what you'd call it, like becoming awake or becoming alive in a time. We didn't choose the time. We didn't choose it on like to be here at this time. We just are here at this time. You know what I mean?
Right. And I didn't choose to be a flat earther either. It was, I didn't choose to be a flat earther. I prayed to be normal. And then God was like, you can't be normal, bro. There's just no way. And then when I found out that I could see too far, it's my obligation to speak it. If I don't, I'll be worse. I've already done bad things. I don't want to make it worse. Once I realized that He was just right up there above me, man, and looking down on me, that I had to change my ways, and I had to tell somebody, or I'd be worse on me in the end. I don't care if people think I'm crazy. I have to tell them.
I feel the same way. That's why I'm here. That's why Joe's here. You're with family, brother.
Okay, goes my family disowns me. They think I'm crazy as fuck, bro. I mean, they really do. Sorry about my language, and then I get mad at everybody else because I think they're crazy, and I start calling the people who listen to me slaves because I think they're a slave, man. If you think another man can tell you what to do, and he ain't Jesus Christ, you're a slave.
But here's one thing that I think, and I think you guys probably have the same thoughts go in your mind, where it's like, a lot of people say, like the idea of telling a lie or hiding the truth or whatever. But what if it's the other way around? And like, I'll call it our previous lives, before we learned about this. was there anything wrong? Like, were you a slave then? I mean, now looking back, you'd say, yeah, but from that point of view back then, you would say no. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So for them to, like, if we're like, you guys are falling for tricks or something like that, to them, that's just like an insult, because to them, they're like, no, I'm not. I'm being just as conscientious as you, just because you're crazy and believe the earth is flat. you know what I'm saying? Like, I think we can all, because we have 2 points
Look,
of view.
it goes. They have weaponized the radio, the TV, the food. You can't go anywhere. They're making this. They put us all in this fifth plantation. Well, like we're already on it since everybody had to do the internet thing. They eat last year, the year before, so we're all in this like fifth plantation. They getting us, bro. That our kids are not going to know that they can tell them people no. I mean, the CBDC, we have to tell them no physically. Hey, man, we don't want it. They got bioengineered sugars in everything, and the reason they have it in everything is because nobody said no. Because I called the company and asked them. That's why I stopped eating everything. I don't eat hardly nothing but meat now, grass-fed meat.
Yeah, you're lucky. We're still living in a town, in a big, a pretty good sized town. So all you have is
I live in a semi off grid. I still live semi off grid. I live in this little thing. It looks like a chicken coop, but I put insulation in it, so it's like a little hoop house. I made out of hog panel and tarp. Look,
one thing
hog panel and tarp.
Hey, it works.
AC in a wood stove. AC in a wood stove.
Some of my favorite channels to watch are off-grid channels. There's some guy that lives in like Arizona, and he moved out there with just a van. He bought a piece of land for like $2,000 or $3,000, and he has built it up into a big bad piece of property.
You can live in it. Yeah, I think those are awesome. I love those. One thing I was just thinking of is, like I'm going to call us witnesses, because, and depending on what a person believes is probably going to define where they believe the information came from. But I believe it came from God. I believe it came from the heavens.
Oh, I believe that. Yes, I believe that God kept putting that video of Jeranism and Dave Weiss in my face until I got to the point where I want to prove these people wrong, and then I couldn't prove them wrong, and then I'm like, okay. Then it took me 4 years to admit it to myself.
Yep. And it was cringe up until you finally said, you know what, though, it's truth.
That's something Joe's talked about in previous videos. I'm sure, I'm assuming he still feels that way. But like, if you're a flat earther, God let you see that. He called for you, right? Like, there's certain people we looked at one. I saw a balloon too high, and I was like, something's wrong here, right? And then there's some people you can show all the information. You can dump out 12 hours of video, right? And they're like, man, you're crazy. You're crazy. There's no chance. They believe in something they can't prove, they haven't seen, but they'll die for it.
They want to believe. They want to believe.
They choose that world. That's what I believe.
They want to believe.
Yeah.
They want to believe.
Right. And for us, I mean, just look back at your previous life, I'll call it. And that was chosen for you where we grew up. When we were in a crib and, whatever they call those things that spin around, I'm sure one of us had planets in there or something. And that's the kind of stuff that we just found ourselves here. Like, I was just living my normal life, like I thought life was. And then, so I call myself a witness. Like, I feel like I'm witnessing something from God. And a lot of people get really offended when you say that. Oh, you can see it from God. Like, no, you can. But one thing that I always try to keep it into perspective, because you know how I forgot your name, the Chakotay Car. Sorry.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I didn't say it.
But like you were saying, how our families, they disown you, or they think you're a weirdo, and they just kind of discredit everything you say once you say certain truth. And it just brings me back to what Jesus said to his disciples. He's like, He was
Put
like,
the dead buried dead.
they will bring you into, they will beat you in their synagogues, and
Hey,
something, you'll have to give a testimony to them because
look,
because their deeds are evil. And I'm like thinking of the churches today, and I'm like, when I was in a Bible study for a long time when I first started learning this stuff, and it was like a morning Bible study once a week, and there was like 30 people that went there or something. It was a pretty big Bible study, and it was at a place that I did work with. And when I started seeing that, it was kind of like, see ya. And I'm like, it's just a testimony to me that people don't, like, even the churches, they have something against the truth of the Bible.
right. And I'm conflicted on. I don't like to label myself anyway, but I mean, I grew up Southern Pentecostal, and I've spoken tongues and went to them churches, and I know that's part's real, and I don't know why they can't see the other part at all. But I wouldn't call myself a Christian because I want to be like Christ. I want to be like Christ was. I want to live like Christ and die like Christ. I don't want to be a Christian and follow.
Ready?
Because I don't understand how these modern Christians can go and drink a Starbucks coffee cup and drink a Starbucks and have the coffee cup in their hand. I couldn't be nowhere around the coffee cup. I couldn't even be around a coffee cup, bro. And I'm not even that really suspicious, but that grosses me out because I know who she was, and I know who her husband was, and I know his birthday is the 25th of December, and I know his name's Nimrod, and he's the Antichrist. He's one of them's coming back, and he's coming back at the bottomless pit, and it's coming close. And people think I'm crazier than hell, but I know for a fact the Bible says his name is Apollyon, which is Apollo, which is Nimrod, which is Osiris, which is all of these.
And what is it?
And some people just can't figure that out.
They don't understand. Look, somebody asked me a question. Somebody asked me a question. If you follow a certain creator, wouldn't you follow his calendar and his times and his seasons? So I started looking around. That's when I discovered, the Catholic Church changed the time, they changed the seasons and everything. I'm a Catholic, whether I want to believe it or not, and I think they're Satanists. So I don't want to do, I'm talking about from the modern society. We're on the modern Catholic time. Nobody knows what time it is, and the whole world follows their feast. Now, I ain't throwing nobody under the bus. I'm just saying in general, the beast behind the system.
Yeah.
Because I don't, personally, the people are nice.
They have us fighting for scraps of knowledge for sure.
They have all of it.
And we're getting huge helpings from God of actual
full helpings.
Knowledge.
I mean, all this mud flood's coming out, and Tartaria's coming out. The real past is coming through with the old world. I mean, I don't know, man. I know it's one big mystery, and I hope that when I pass this world, I'll have some answers.
I think we'll. Go ahead, Joe.
Go ahead, Bob. You go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah. I mean, we're when we pass, we'll have all the answers for sure. We only live once, according to the Bible. So,
yeah.
Oh yeah, I never been here before. Yeah.
There is a foretold to not die.
What's that?
I'm not saying that's us. I'm just saying there is a generation of people that are alive at the resurrection, and they don't suffer death, like their body doesn't.
Well,
die.
I think it's until they die, right? Like the people that are alive, they stay alive, and then when they die, they get their new glorified bodies, right? Like that's my belief on it.
I'm talking about like when Paul was talking about the dead in Christ shall rise first, and then those who are alive will meet them up in the clouds. Because there's a population of people in the world right now, and if Jesus came and destroyed all these things that we're learning are wicked, if he did that, those people in the world that are alive, they're going to go into his kingdom. Their body won't ever go to a grave, is what I'm saying.
You're right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always think that it seems like we're in that time.
Oh, I think we're gonna have a lot of chimeras. Chimeras, is that what you call them? Animals and
Chimeras,
human
yeah.
chimeras. We're gonna have a bunch of those here in the future, and I think they're gonna print them out because there's not 100 million horses in the whole world. Well, I mean,
Oh,
we're only
wow.
shy. We're only shy about like 99 million. You know what I'm talking about? There ain't that many horses. There'll never be that many horses in the world for a horseman army. So, but they can print out clones in just a few hours out of an artificial womb. The U.S. government's already putting patents out. They requesting people for holographic brains. Where they can
Oh
just
boy.
holographic brain in it. You know what I'm talking? Boom, 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 pop them out the door. And the technology is there, bro. I mean, they can laser print a heart from a printer. Now, you can't tell me they can't print somebody out in an artificial womb in no time at
Sounds
all. Just like, oh, here you go,
sounds
and you
like
got enough money.
fallen angel technology. Hey guys, I gotta
Yeah.
go. We're gonna go.
Yeah,
on
all right, you're taking
Fallen
off?
angel.
You taking off, Joe?
I love it. Yeah, I gotta.
All right.
But I'm gonna be listening in. So
All right. Yeah,
I always love your show.
have a fun ride, brother, and we'll do it again next weekend if you're around.
Awesome. Sounds good. Nice to meet you, Carver.
Yeah, nice to meet you too, Joe.
All right.
All right. Keep it flat.
Yep. You too, brother.
Yeah.
So one of the things, I don't know if that was Carver, you or Joe, but mentioned the technology back then was, and I'm amazed with the ancient, technology, megalithic structures, and like the granite sarcophaguses that weigh 100 tons that it'd take 200 people to pull one of them. But I think there's
laser cut.
Yeah, we can't do it today. We can't.
Brian
like there's
Forrester. I follow Brian Forrester, and he does a lot of that.
Yeah,
he's always going there and measuring them and showing you how fine they are. And he goes all over the world with that.
I collect. That's something else I'm into. I have a whole library of that stuff. I could, do a nice little video on all these old megalithic sites, giants as well.
Yeah, I don't have really great internet connection here. It gets worse in the summer, better in the winter. I think it's the sun, the electricity of the sun, because the sun's further away. I kind of live in a hole anyway, close to the lake. Yeah. So I've been doing an audio podcast, and sometimes I would just Google things and read off of Google, and then other times I get mad and rant and rave. I mean, I had like 30 customers at one time, or listeners, and I got them down to about 0 in about a week when I got mad because I was upset, man, because nobody seems to even. In my mind, it's like talking to a brick wall. Hey, this is. Oh no, I don't believe that. I was like, this is a Saturnarian holiday. That's a Satan holiday, and it goes right back. 400 years before Christmas, there was Saturnalia or something. Right? It's a whole religion. It's
Saturnalia, right? Yeah,
Saturnalia. And if I'm not mistaken, I've seen a guy fold a cross into the shape of a cube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, that means Christians are cube. That means the people they call Jews are a cube, and the other people are a cube. The Muslim people are a cube. They dance around a cube, and it's all relates to Saturn, which is devil worship. Now, this is that's like we're not fighting against people, because people can't. Put these 1,000-year plans in place to put us into slavery. Now, I am physically written on paper as a slave to the devil that I want to get out before I die. I think you can do it with being an American state national or Florida state national, where I'm from. I'm going to live in Oklahoma. That's all I want to do. I want to get out from underneath that paperwork before I die. People think I'm crazy when I say, hey, if you're a United States citizen or citizen of the United States, you are a slave. You're not a free person. The Constitution does not apply to you. You are the Queen of England actually owns you, because you're part of the corporation of the United States of America is a corporation owned from the DC is not a. It's its own little thing. The District of Columbia is a corporation that's owned by the Crown, and the Crown owns every country in the world. And if you don't think that Donald Trump and Putin are cousins, you need to go back and look at history.
There was a little girl that showed that all these politicians are related, all of them, right? Like going back through history. It's all the same bloodline.
Guess what? They're so inbred. They're so inbred that they spread some disease all across Europe. Queen Victoria, the grandmother of Europe, has children in the royal families of Spain, Germany, and Russia. So you try to tell me that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin couldn't be cousins, and they just one big family all over the world, bro?
I think they're all in cahoots. This is all a stage that they play on. It's just when so behind the scenes they're all best friends.
Right. So the creator has his people, and the Antichrist, or Nimrod or Satan, whoever, has their people and their family. We were never taught about their family. We're just learning about their family. So the whole time that, like, Jesus went up to heaven, so some people says he has kids, some people says he didn't have kids, but whatever. His message lives on. So we're his family. We're fighting for that message. The whole time there's other people on the other side fighting. Everybody knows about Satanists, but these are like real. These aren't people wearing black robes pretending to be Satanists. What happened to all the kids? What happened? Look, there's a lady who went to prison for selling kids to adults. There's a man who died who had an airplane, took in adults to see the kids. And how come the adults ain't in prison? Where are the kids? That's just one out of thousands of questions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not meaning to be crazy, but thank you, Bobby, for letting me come on here and talk.
Anytime, brother.
I can't always get on here. And I left my email down in there, and some link, a voicemail, if you could leave a voicemail or something, or some way, because I think I'll have to send you a link to the phone or something, and I just didn't want to ask you your phone number over the air. But I put my email down there, and I don't care if another flat earther talks to me. There's not many of us out here. I got one friend, he found me on Dave Watts' map, which I'd never get on no more, and me and him talk. That's about it. I don't talk to many people. I'm just down here in the hole, and I got me a little garden and a little pond and my little house.
That's nice. I was gonna try to do that once and didn't follow through with it.
I do artwork and stuff. Do that wood carving.
Yep.
Yeah,
I've seen some of that.
Oh yes, right, Dakota Carver. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Man, that was my story, man. I was just so upset, dude. I started calling. I said, well, I grew up in a religious cult. I called a cult first. So I did. I called El Dorado and left a message with the pastor. He didn't get back. And I tried to leave a message with the church, and they wouldn't answer. Their message is full. So then I started calling around the different states, called 4 or 5 states. 2 of them answered. One in Texas didn't call me back, and the one in Iowa didn't call me back. Then I got mad because nobody in my cult I used to belong to would call me back. So I started calling every church in that little town I live in, and one of the pastors called me back. He wouldn't do a phone interview on air, but he did answer all my questions. I had like up 10 or 11 questions. Like, what is the name of God? Was one of them.
Yeah.
What happens to the birth certificate, the baptismal certificate? I heard a whole nother story about that, but everybody says, "Oh, we don't." Same questions. I mean, it was just like, I didn't even care if his answers matched mine, as long as I just told you a story about my son. I just want to know if he had an answer, man, because it was like kind of crazy. I know you don't. Do you celebrate Christmas? Do you follow any of the commandments? Then I like this one. What is the law that God puts on your heart? Can you name me 5 of them? Do you think the biblical Hebrews were black? Is the Bible real? Who is the beast? Is the beast of the Antichrist? Some really simple questions, and they seem to have a hard time answering any of them. Well, the Bible's real, but the earth ain't flat. You ain't got to do the commandments.
Yeah, honestly, a lot of those questions I don't know. I don't know a lot of those. I'm still trying to make sense of all this as well, right? I don't know that we ever.
I can understand because this is a book written by man. The only thing I know for sure is I can see too far. And if NASA's lying, then some of this has got to be real. So I believe Enoch. So I believe that he's right over my head. Now, as crazy as that sounds, I think he looks up there and instantly I changed my ways because I was like, oh my God, all the crap I used to do, because, I'm a wild man, I like the heavy metal, rock and roll, and, everybody, But,
I
so,
gave it. It's interesting. I gave up a lot of the music I used to listen to when I learned about what they were pushing. Right? You saw these. I used to love Van Halen. Right? Van Halen, Running with the Devil.
Yeah.
All their songs. I used to love Motley Crue. Growing up, I listened to all that music, and today I can't listen to it anymore because now I know what it means. Right?
Yeah. I have no radio, no TV. Usually just sit on my phone, do the podcast because it's kind of easier than the YouTube. And I saw that you were on and came out so I could talk to you for a minute because like I said, I don't always get to watch. When I do, I was in the house trying to talk, but every time I'm like a minute or two behind all the time. And you came on early enough; it was still light.
Yeah.
No, but I appreciate it, man, because I don't feel so crazy when I listen to your show and I hear other people say the same thing. I'm like, okay. I just come off a little crazier because I'm passionate and maybe the way I look and I'm way passionate about it. So I'll probably come off a little bit more, because, I don't really care, dude. I get to the point I'll scream at you and call you a slave because I feel like if they say something, I even on my podcast, they're like, well, how can you be a Christian? You smoke cannabis and you cuss like a sailor. And I'm like, well, how can you be a Christian? Because you celebrate Christmas and Easter.
Good point. Yeah, I'd rather hang with the dude that smokes and than the guy that celebrates the Satan holidays.
Look, I know I'm not perfect. The only way I will get to a better place is if somebody does have grace and mercy on my soul. But sometimes I feel like Jesus in the temple beating people for selling stuff that ain't supposed to be selling in the temple, using money they ain't supposed to be using. I feel like that when these Christians will look at me and say, well, no, I don't have to obey the law. I'm under grace. And then I'm trying to
learn the law, right?
I don't know
I'm
the
doing
law.
my best.
I don't know the time. I just know that the new year starts around the first day of spring is the actual new year. And that's about the only thing I know. And then I know I'm supposed to eat unleavened bread, and I try to not eat bread at all.
Yeah. But if you read the commands, a lot of them are easy, right? Like a lot of them are very, there's obviously some where you're like, well, we just don't know this. So there's nothing I can do about that. But I still want to be, for lack of better words, as perfect as I can be, right? I want to be as close to what God wants me to be. So that's my goal. And man, I'm still making sense of the Bible. I'm still learning. And you can read it and then read it again. And every time you read it, you understand something better, right? So
or different,
different. And so I'll never profess. I came across someone who I think has, like, in my opinion, knows it better than anyone else I've ever come across. That's Sean Griffin with Kingdom in Context. And I'm not saying he's right. Like, I'm not saying, this guy, he knows for a fact. I'm sure his opinions might possibly evolve a little bit. He might learn one or two things, but I've never met anyone that knew the Bible as good as him. So I kind of default to him, right? That guy's absolutely amazing. That's my instructor.
I don't know. I've seen him sometimes. I know the name. I miss Rob Skiba. Brother Rob was like a big influence on my life, and I really miss him, dude. Matter of fact, I was like, "Hey, where's Rob at? I ain't heard from him in a while." And next thing you know, that popped up, and I was like, "Oh my God!"
Rob was my favorite, and then when Rob kind of fell off, I found out later about Sean Griffin, and Sean did things. Sean did things with Rob. They were involved together.
Okay,
so Sean was on.
Maybe that's why I know his name.
Yeah, and he's been on Rob's show, and they were doing something together. I can't remember what it was. They had a project together.
There's one who used to always talk about Nephilim all the time. I used to go listen to that guy all the time.
Sean
guy with
talks about Nephilim all the time.
Maybe
the dude's a genius. I've never seen anyone with a memory like him. I've never met anyone with a memory like him. He's like a supercomputer.
Yeah, there's a guy I was just talking about who does those tours that goes to over to Egypt to the pyramids. He lives in Peru. Brian Forster. You need to follow him, dude. He found those Paracas skulls, the skulls, the big eyeballs look like aliens.
Mhm.
He's the one that finds those, and there's caves over there, man. I've seen one guy. Can't even tell you, Franz something. He's a Spanish guy, and he crawled into one of those caves. He does like travel videos, and he crawled into a cave, and there were hundreds of these mummies just like thrown in there like cordwood, like they all crawled up in this cave and died or something. And they all have those big alien heads, and they're about 4 to 5 feet tall, six
Mm.
feet tall, the different sizes. They all have, like, he has one perfect alien baby looking thing. The head's as big as the whole body.
Yeah.
And it was like, has molars. It has this, it's the same body, it's all together still, all clothed up, it's, X-rated, it's all one, it ain't been put together, and it's got like molars and stuff, and it's just, come on, buddy.
Yeah, I'll have to check out his channel. He's got 400,000 followers, Brian Forster. Yeah, I've never seen
Yeah.
that. I'll check him out.
Check what? There's. Check what? I gotta get my dog. There's.
Canon Carroll said, "Works are good, but don't save you. If so, Jesus wouldn't have had to come to die." But I do believe that Jesus said, from my understanding, everything I've seen, we are supposed to follow the Torah. And I'm not saying you won't be saved, right? I'm not saying I'm not preaching anything. I'm not a preacher or a pastor, but my belief is that we are judged at the end, and based on your works is kind of, for a lack of better words to say it, how close you're going to be to God, right? Or, well, to Jesus on earth. We don't go to heaven, but that's my understanding.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of like, you got to follow some laws in a society, right? So those laws are just basically showing you how to live correctly. And grace and mercy is for all the things that when you do mess up the law. You know what I mean? I think you're supposed to follow the law. But I don't know the law, so I'm failing that all my whole life. But I am getting better. I don't eat pork, so I guess I am getting a little better.
I thought it was 613. How many?
But everybody has their own thing, man. So who knows?
613. Of course, that's Google, right? How much do you trust Google? But Google says there's 613.
Laws?
Yeah, Torah laws, right? Commandments, Jewish commandments, right?
However
you want to refer to that.
Well, all right. Now, like this is I do have some issues, right? Now, I believe in following God's law, but then sometimes the book says Moses' law. Then there's Jewish law. There's like some kind of traditions that Jesus is like, "What are y'all guys doing? Ain't what I said at all."
Well, I think the 613 commandments are from the Old Testament, right? Like that to me. Now, Jewish law could be in Talmud. It can be stuff like that. I don't believe in. And Moses's law, Moses just said
what God said,
what God told him to say, right? Like I attribute Moses's law to God's law. So, and I haven't seen anything in there that's honestly not written in my heart. I haven't come across some law that says do something crazy, right?
Right.
It
ain't confusing.
There's none of it
confusing, right?
There's none of it that's difficult,
or confusing to understand. Like some people can't understand the simplest thing, like circle of the earth, inscribe. They don't understand little things.
Someone brought up. Go ahead.
Oh, they have the first one's do not kill. The only problem I have with that is it don't specify between animals or human.
Yeah, well, so I heard this is one of the things Sean went over, and he says if you go back to the old Hebrew, It's actually if I'm remembering this right, my memory is so bad, but I'm pretty sure that it translates to do not murder. There's a difference, right? So
there is a
of course
murder.
we interpret it. We by the time it makes its way to English, it gets perverted.
Kind of like
So
legalese. And I heard English is meant to not use your other creative part of your brain too. It's almost like I was listening to people talk, and they were talking about how English language was actually created to kind of hypnotize whoever uses it in a way, because it turns them off from a. And then before then, I've been learning a little bit Muskogee Creek, goes, way back. Everybody from Florida's got a Cherokee or Creek grandmama. So I've been learning Muskogee Creek, and the lady who teaches just says, all right, forget English, you got to use your other side of the brain, the creative part. So that kind of stuck with me because I'm an artist. Okay, I can do that. I'm a creative. And then somebody like months and months and months later talking about how the English language was made to make us not use that part of our brain, helps us shut us off. So when you say it goes from murder to kill, I can understand that, because like if somebody attacks me and I defend myself, that's not violence.
right.
The other guy's perpetrating violence on me. I'm defending myself. So if you try to kill me and I kill you on accident trying to save myself, that's not me portraying. That's not violence from my end.
Yeah, agreed. Hello, Brenda. I've seen you. I saw you. I just didn't get a chance to say hi. Hope you're doing well.
I can't see none of the chats, which is good. I don't need to.
I get I see all the chats from all that. There's actually a couple different channels that I do see all the chats. Someone brought up Michael Tellinger, who I love watching Michael Tellinger, and he's a flat earther. He lost a little credibility because he was a pretty mainstream archaeologist. I don't know if he was actually he did a lot of archaeological stuff, but he was pretty well known. And I remember him talking about all the gigs he lost that he had lined up all around the world when he came out as a flat earther. His career really took a hit.
Well, I think Neil the Black Jesus for turning me into a flat earther. And it's kind of sarcastic because he's always talking about, it's flat. Well, it is flat. That stuff is flat. He come up to Oklahoma City one time. I was going to go, man, I wish I could go see him. Because I hasn't really said told anybody that I thought that it really was flat. And then by the time that thing, I never did go, and he didn't show up because of this thing a couple of years ago. And since then, I said I wouldn't go see him. And I was just telling everybody, well, here's the reason because they contradict each other. They contradict what they say, dude. I love getting on just Siri and asking Siri, and I don't have that here, but in the past, I just Google it now and Google. But, I just will ask a question like, well, how do they get water? What they do, come out oxygen on the space shuttle and water. And they say, oh, they collect the waters off the sinks in the showers. And you Google again, oh, there's no sinks in showers. And oh my God, it's an insane thing. Like a woman's supposed to stop her period for a whole year with just some medication, like over the counter stuff. No. I can see them maybe slowing it down for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, but not for no year. And it ain't no problem with that. It ain't no problem with them using the bathroom. And there's no way that man could live in that. You can't live in space, dude. That makes people with that whoever gets wrong with them in their ear, that little thing in their ear when they fall down all the time.
Cochlear
There's a little thing in your ear. If it wasn't for gravity, it points down. And if that thing's messed up, you get dizzy and you can't stand up good. And you gotta take medicine.
Yeah.
It's just, you can't walk, ride a bicycle, none of that stuff. They make fun of people when they say I've been up there, because if you go up into space and that thing stops moving, if you stay up there for any period of time, you come back down, you can't even walk. You're like drooling on yourself. You gotta learn how to walk and talk because that thing don't work, and he has to point down so you know which way's up. But when Fish starts doing this, because I think personally we're electrical beings anyway.
Yeah,
We're
we
electrical
are.
beings.
I agree.
Man, we couldn't live outside of that. But I think that's the reason when them people in the vomit rockets, they look like they're about to puke and they pretended to be on the space shuttles because that thing in their ear is not going down. It's floating and they get sick.
I don't doubt
Yeah.
that.
And people can't see through that either. That's insane. But you know, I can understand. I lived in Oklahoma. It's hard to find in a 3-mile flat spot. Oh, I was doing a thing today, long distance photography for my podcast, and there's a guy who took a picture from Spain into France at 432 kilometers. This was a regular camera, and I got on Guinness Book of World Record, and that's why I was reading it from. They didn't lie. They said he took the picture from so-and-so to so-and-so, 432 kilometers, and they were saying that you can't see a man over from the curve of the earth beyond 5 kilometers, which is about 3 miles. I was like, well, they didn't lie at all. I was like, something's up. If they didn't lie, they omitted something, right? I've been thinking that they omitted something. So guess what? I Googled the highest mountain on the earth, which ain't them two. These mountains are lower. It was Mount Everest, and it's 20,000 feet. So then I Googled, and then I got on the Globe Earth calculator. I went to 432 kilometers, and I put 0 to 0. That tells me how much of a mountain I got in front of me. I had 20 miles of water and rock in between, not 20,000 feet, 20 miles. I was like, that's what they admitted. I'd have to be on a 20-mile mountain. The mountain would have to literally stick above the atmosphere into outer space if I was going to see it. You know, but it's perfectly flat. You can see the picture yourself. It's the world's longest. It's perfectly flat. They're standing and look between two peaks, and you can see little dots.
Is that? I think that's. Are you talking about Pic Gaspard? Is that what that is? I'm pretty sure you're talking about the Pic Gaspard one.
I can't spell. It's all French. I can't read it.
Yeah, I think that's it's a pretty common one called Pic Gaspard.
The guy who took it was like he waited for the sun to get behind it. It wasn't like the one that Dave Weiss always talks about. If it is, yeah, I don't remember. I didn't see Mount Canigou. It's another one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think. All right. I think the Pic Gaspard was from Mount Canigou, if I remember.
Oh, it could be it. I don't know. It could be it because I don't know. I just know it. So I can't. It's Spanish and French or something. I couldn't read it. It's the Guinness Book's World Record, 432 kilometers. I just Googled it today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's what they hid out. They left out the fact that I needed a 20-mile mountain instead of a 20,000 foot mountain. You couldn't even seen it with it on mountain. So, and then I found out the more I'm on a phone instead of a computer. So when I Google something, I only got I don't have very many. Whatever I Google, it just kind of stops, and then it's hard to find the truth. They are like you. I'm starting to see they omit stuff.
Well, they control the information. That's the frustrating part is, you know, the human race is going to believe whatever they control the information now, all of it, right? There's no independent information anymore. Everyone thinks the right answer comes from their phone. So when one entity has control of all information portals, if you will, they can create any narrative they want.
I've been going to the library and getting books for like $5 for $1. Just whatever I can find.
It's just like Eratosthenes, right? We have no way of knowing if he was a real person. Now educated people are going to go, of course he was. I learned about him in school. But when you control the school books, I can make anyone exist, anybody, right? If I'm the person who makes these books, I determine who is real and who is not real in the past, with a few exceptions, such as the Bible that's just been copied. Humanity, and that's one of the reasons I put so much weight in the Bible, is humanity fought so hard and so many died to keep that book going, right? And as hard as they tried to stop it, it still dominates the entire world.
Right. That's one reason I don't think that's a psyop. Now, religions could be a psyop, but I think that the information that you can get in that book will lead you to Christ no matter what religion you're in.
Yeah, well, I think I do. I don't consider myself religious. I was talking about this with a friend the other day. No, I follow Christ. It's the only way I can say it, right? I'm not religious. I think churches are all I don't want to say there's not a good church. There probably are some, but they're few and far between. The majority
I
of
think it means
churches
court.
are cults, and they're led by Freemasons with the sole intention of giving you a watered down religion.
Well, my son didn't know God's name. He never even thought about it. But he knows Jesus ain't God, but he didn't know God had a name. And never even thought about it. So we haven't talked. Probably won't talk for a long time. I don't want to go against his religion. Me, I just kind of like, wow, that's kind of like, reminds me of Germany. It reminds me of Germany. Because look, I told him, I said, hey, I can see. I asked him, I think we can see too. And I explained to him rationally, and he was like, okay. So he went and asked his preacher, and his preacher told him the Earth was a globe, and that was a deception, so to break families apart. That's what his preacher told him.
Yeah, what do you do?
So okay. So let me see. I'm a Christian, and this is my Bible. I chose this faith. I want to be grafted in, but I don't have to obey none of the rules, and I believe none of this book. Like, then they tell you, oh wait, the Earth wasn't made in 7 days. It was 1,000 years is a day. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. You know that book is like 1,500 years written. 1,500 years, not like 15 days later. 1,500 years later. Well, he was like listening to some country music and stuff, and I was like, "How come you listen to that, man? You know that's devil music because the devil changed the music. You know, I don't listen to music no more because of that very reason. I was a big heavy metal fan, and the Eagles is probably one of my favorite bands of all time. I don't listen to them at all no more, bro.
I know.
You know what I mean?
What?
So I told him that, and he was all like, "Man, times have changed," is what he told me.
Yeah, I try not to listen to any music now. I believe it's all tainted, all of it, right? Someone not argued with me, but they tried to present the case that Creed, was a Christian band. I don't know about that. I don't know. He showed me some lyrics, and I'm like, I'm not buying into it. Right? I don't think you get that level of fame without making a pact with the devil. That's just what I believe. I don't believe Christians I shouldn't say Christian. I don't believe a real follower of Christ can make it mainstream. I just don't believe it.
No.
Claw.
They have to compromise you to get you in that contract. They're all compromised. That's why they all like, hey, some hunters will go out and shoot a deer and then grab and cut a piece of their heart and drink some blood out of it. You know, the Antichrist people do that. You know what I mean? They'll get a little baby and they'll torture it and they drink the blood. You think I'm crazy? Somebody doing it, bro. Somebody doing it. You guarantee some farmer out there who's chopping chickens all day long don't get tired and takes a shot of his, cuts the chicken's heads off and drinks a shot of his blood just to keep on going. It happens all the time. I don't do that. So that's somebody that, they get you into something. They compromise you somehow. They compromise you. How have they compromised you? They got something on you, and then you can get famous. If they get you and get you compromised, and they get that lock, then they have to compromise you somehow. So, no, you got to do what we say now. And then once you got them doing what you say, then they get famous. There's a trade-off. It's a horrible trade-off, bro.
Yeah, I think they have you do despicable things on film, and if you step out of line, they threaten. They'll ruin you, right? I don't think I believe that. Do I have proof? No, but I believe it.
Well, I just did a little thing on the David Koresh a little bit, and I didn't really say too much about that, but there was two DEA agents that got popped going in. The first two that died, when going to trying to get on the second floor, trying to go to shoot them family, the kids and the wives and up there. Somebody tagged her. They were finna testify against the then sitting governor of Arkansas, Bill Clinton, because him and the then president, George Bush, Democrats, Republicans don't get along, but they were in a drug dealing community. They brought in all the damn cocaine for all the 90s or whatever it was. The crack epidemic is the craziest thing. And It started back. I don't know when it started. It started since the founding of the country because George Washington, he might have been a Christian, but he didn't celebrate Christmas. I don't know if he even was a Christian, man. I almost think that the Satanists came over here and started this country and brought some Christians with them who didn't believe in, because a lot of people come over were Protestants. They didn't want to follow Christmas, and they came over here to get away from it. And then it come out a few hundred years later. It comes back. That's what I understand. That's why George Washington attacked the British on Christmas Day, because he didn't follow Christmas. He knew better. Now, whether he was a Christian or a Satanist, Mason, all that, a Freemason, who knows? They say he's a Freemason. So if he's a Freemason, then he ain't a Christian.
C-Law, is it C-Law or is it Claw? Are you, is your mic not working, or you just wanted to?
Yeah, either is fine.
What is it?
Or Claw.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go anyway in a minute because of my camera battery. But
all right. Well, we got someone else who wants to jump in. Brenda wants to jump in here, but I don't want to do 4. So
I'm gonna get out, and I thank you very much, Bobby, for having me on, and call me later or something.
All right,
if you got time.
I'll try.
Thank you.
I'll try to find your number. All right. Take care, Chakota. All right, it's about to get rough in here. Oh, Claw dropped, I guess. No, what happened here?
Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yeah. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm still here. So, hey, Bobby, thanks for opening your channel to anyone to call in. That's really great. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
You're the only one who does that.
Yeah, I think everyone should have a voice. Even Brenda. I've got no problem with Brenda. She gives me a lot of flack, but
Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah, I've seen that in the past. Yeah. Yeah. So I've been on here a couple times before. So I just want to mention to folks where I'm at. It's a bit cloudy and raining, but go outside and look up at the sky in the west, and you'll see the brightest star in the sky. It's going to be Venus. Venus in the evening, and I see it until about 10:30 at night, and I'm surrounded by hills in Tennessee. Venus proves the solar system model is false. That alone proves it's false. Add that to, you can look over flat bodies of water for 6, 10, 30, 40 miles, and that too proves the not the solar system, but the globe Earth is wrong. Okay, so I'm just going to mention that and drop, and I appreciate you giving me that opportunity.
Thanks for coming on. I agree with you, brother. I see right when I open my front door, I'm looking at Venus every night. My daughter always looks at it. I stop and look at it every night. It's the brightest thing in the sky, and every night I can't miss it. But yeah, thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Hey, Brenda, how are you? No, Brenda's mic must not be working. But all right, let me back up, look at some of these comments. Sorry, guys. Chakota was pretty talkative tonight. I didn't, I'm here to let people talk, right? I'm not trying to be the most popular channel. It's not the purpose. I don't get any glory from this. I really don't have much to say. It's really about bringing different guests on. I just like hearing what people have to say and talking about our beliefs. Mic not working. So Brenda's mic's not working. I don't know. I don't have you muted, Brenda, I promise. I don't even think I have a way to mute you. I just have a way to turn you on and off. Yeah. I've never muted anyone in Restream. There's no ability that I see. But I'll leave you there if you can figure it out. I probably won't be on too much longer. I'm just reading over some of the. I'll close out unless someone jumps in real quick. We'll close out with a few comments. And we had Joe Hill in. Joe's I like having conversations with him. Rune said Bobby got it. I got something, I understood something, or I'm not sure, but yeah, Christy Lee Dolls. Yeah, Sweet Dreams, definitely about, she's, you know, that's, I've highlighted that one in other videos where she's pointing to the globe saying sweet dreams are made of this. Absolutely. But it's amazing, you know, what we were talking about music, you know, I grew up on Van Halen. It was my favorite band. Motley Crue is, you know, a ways behind. There was probably bands in there, but I liked Motley Crue. I liked all, and I had no idea. I didn't pay attention to what I was listening to, but you know, my subconsciously, I was listening to everything. I was just gulping it up. And now I listen to Van Halen or Motley Crue or any of these songs I used to listen to. And man, the message is just dark and satanic. Everyone is welcome. Again, this is just about giving. I won't, you know, unless you're just being mean. Everyone's welcome in here. So we'll give Brenda another minute or two. She's trying different things. Gregory Bolin said, "Yep." Not sure what that "yep's" in regards to, but my music choices have changed. I don't know what to listen to nowadays, right? Like, what do you listen to? I honestly believe that for any artist to go mainstream, they have to sell their soul to the devil. And I know there's people out there that thinks that's crazy. I don't even, to me, it's crazy that they think I'm crazy for that. Like they're all wearing Satan, you know, devil horns, devil tails. They're singing about Satan. You watch Eminem, he's out there walking on water and talking about being a god and dissing Jesus. And I mean, they're all openly satanic. They're not even hiding it. Like they don't even try to hide it. Kanye comes out and said, "Sold my soul to the devil," and writes the book of Jesus. Like, what kind of mockery is that? You know, Eminem's dipping himself in a bathtub of blood. So is DMX. All these rappers. Little Nas comes out with devil shoes. I mean, they're all Satanists. Every single one of them. I don't know, Brenda, but I mean, pop out and pop back in one more time. Maybe that'll do it. Yeah, and I think music has it like casts spells on you, right? We use that laughingly. I use it, and people hear it and mock it and laugh. But words have power over you. They absolutely do. And subconscious words or words you don't, that your subconscious picks up on that your conscious doesn't, may even have more of an effect. Rune, I believe, I believe the devil is very real, right?
Does this help any?
Yeah, I hear you now. How are you, Brenda?
Well, that's weird. I didn't do anything. I just left and rejoined.
Yeah, I got the Obama going on there. I take it you're a fan of.
Yeah, I put it on there because I figured it would, that you'd react to it.
I'm not gonna. I've got nothing but love. I know you want to come on, and
I'm a proud Democrat. I'm a liberal Democrat. I vote Democrat. I voted for Biden, and I will vote for him again.
I won't vote for anyone. I think they're all criminals. But that's just me being honest.
Yeah. Well, it's you being you're extremely paranoid. You know that?
Well, some people look at it that way. Like some people don't. I mean, unfortunately, we're a smaller part of humanity, but we look at the possibility that, and I believe in the Bible. I mean, it's not a bad thing. We shouldn't just judge people.
I've taken courses on worldwide religions and stuff like that. Your version of Christianity is like nothing like anyone believes or has believed. It's extreme in the extreme, and extremely a very small number of people and very extreme beliefs.
But why is it extreme? Why would you,
as compared to the culture?
But is there anything about what I believe that's negative to you in any way?
Yeah. Do you think that Catholics are Christians?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's extreme.
Yeah, but what does that belief hurt anyone? For me to just not believe, me as a follower of Jesus, I have different beliefs than Catholics believe. I don't believe that. But so, I don't think it should bother anyone.
I think it bothers people because it's an extremely prejudiced and bigoted point of view. Anti-Catholic bigotry has been a problem in the United States since our formation, right? So that's sort of a problem. And I would imagine that you have some anti-Semitic views too. I've encountered in the flat Earth community a great deal of homophobia, transphobia, anti-Semitism, all throughout the flat Earth community. I think flat Earthers are morally bankrupt. I don't think they have any morals.
There's some out there. I mean, there's every sect or category of people has the lows and the highs.
Do you believe in the blood over intent thing?
Describe what you mean.
Blood over intent.
I don't know.
You write some kind of words on a piece of paper, and then you cut yourself, and I think you put your fingerprint on it.
No.
And then you pray about it. And a number of flat earthers believe in that. MC Toon has talked about it, and about how certain flat earthers are flat out Satanists. MC Toon has a video on the satanic people within flat earth.
Could be. And my belief on that is, and all we have is beliefs, right? Like that's all we have.
No, we have knowledge in addition to beliefs.
And we disagree on our knowledge though. Like if I go out and do a test with a thermometer and I have knowledge, but you'll disagree with that knowledge. So we disagree on our knowledge. Therefore, we can only call them beliefs.
No, that's not true. Because if you go out and you measure with a thermometer that it's 72 degrees outside, then it's 72 degrees. It's not an opinion. It's not a belief. It's a fact.
But what I meant to say was I'm measuring moonlight, right, as an example. And I show that moonlight's colder than moonshade, right? And you'll disagree with me, but I'll do the experiment and 100% of the time, it'll agree with me.
Except it doesn't, because you don't know how to do an experiment. And correctly done, it shows that moonlight is not colder. What happens is that in an open space at night, the air cools off. And if you measure that, say, close to a building or close to trees, those things retain heat from the day, right? And so they warm up that air right close to them a little bit more. But it's not possible. It's physically impossible for light to be cold.
If it were sunlight, yeah. But moonlight is a different kind of a light.
No,
light, I think that's
there's only one kind of light. It's a photon, and photons have energy, right? They can't have negative energy.
Well, to believe that that's the thing, is that you come from a standpoint where you believe that we understand all science and everything is understandable. I come from a different belief.
I don't believe everything is understandable. I don't think everything is science. But just in these matters, it's very well known because people have looked into it, right? Yeah. So,
the ones I see look into it get different results, though. I see people taking a FLIR and walking around, and everywhere the shadow is hotter than where the moonlight is, right?
Yeah,
like
for the reasons
that's
I
not
just told
something.
you.
That's
For the reason I just told you.
If shadows, if you know, fence posts and everything, this is if you and I can produce this video. We're not talking about, you know, hotter areas under concrete, or maybe where, I mean, if the shadows are hotter than where the moon is lighting the area, that's a problem. That's a problem. That disagrees with mainstream science.
It doesn't disagree for the reasons I told you. My timer is going off. I have a potato in the oven. I'm going to have a baked potato and spaghetti.
All right. Enjoy it. So many photon. Well, there's, you know, bring on Brenda to be nice, and it's entertaining, and but there's no sense in arguing, right? Like I can argue all day and night, and we're not going to get anywhere. But what I can prove is that, you know, we're supposed to love each other. It's not my job to judge anyone.
Nice potato. Nice potato. Took an hour and a half to cook. So these are things like facts. So, for instance, in what was it, 1973, 77, Apollo 17, they turned around and took a picture of the Earth. That's the famous blue marble, right? It shows right there that the Earth is a globe. All they did is take a camera and take a picture.
All right. The only problem is you wasn't on that flight, and you can't verify that's real, but you talk about it like it's a fact. That's the only problem. And
who wasn't on that flight?
You.
So I don't have to be on a flight. Why do I have to be on a flight?
If I produce a picture of me over water and tell you I was flying over the Pacific Ocean, does that mean I flew over the Pacific Ocean?
It might. It would be evidence.
Well, but see, someone more skeptical would say that may not be the Pacific Ocean. Maybe that's just some water. It could be a pond. Right.
Right. I would need additional evidence, but it would be evidence for your claim. The weakness or the strength of the evidence would depend on what additional evidence you could bring to bear. Right. So I don't have to be in Paris, France to know that the Eiffel Tower exists. And that's kind of what you guys are saying. You have a bad epistemology. You think that people have to personally witness things in order to have knowledge about them, and that's just false. So I can know, for instance, there was a thing going around that said that Australia didn't exist. Have you ever been to Australia?
No.
So you can't say, you can say that you know Australia exists. You can say that, so can I. We've never been there.
I can't say definitively. I've never been there. You're right. I can't. I can say I believe it is.
You can say that it exists. You can do that.
I just told you I believe it exists.
Because there's evidence. No, you can say you know it exists.
Well, I can say I believe it exists, right?
No, you can say I can say I know it exists.
Well,
I know.
I was taught things, but I was also taught. So, do you what you were? Can you name anything that you was taught that you don't believe in? What if they had taught you that the moon was hollow? What if they taught you that in school? Would the moon be hollow?
It would depend on whether or not the moon was in fact hollow, wouldn't it?
Well, no, because you just use what you're taught as the fact. You're not. No. You have no proof for those things.
What I've been taught isn't a fact. It's what I've been taught. So if I was taught something that later turned out to be untrue, then what I taught was based on an error. People can make errors.
It's not about, well, they can make errors and they can also lie. It's not just errors,
Most
right?
likely.
It's not these
Most
people
likely.
making errors. In my
Most
belief
likely
system,
people
it's
just
people
make
lying.
mistakes. People
Well,
make mistakes. Come on.
But that's because you come from a reality where you don't believe in the Bible, the Satan or the devil. And even if it weren't that, it could be just a dark cabal, right? Like, but that just has, they're just psychopaths. I mean, that's even logical too, because naturally psychopaths rise to power. They do. That's
You don't
a
have a good
natural
reason
thing.
to believe that everybody that says things is a
Let me
psychopath.
see who Brenda Debates Interrupted is. It's interesting. We have someone using your moniker here. Hello, Brenda Debate Interrupted. I don't know. They're not
So
saying
the point
anything.
is, they probably have trouble with the restream is a little bit different than some of the others. So getting the audio right was, and he may have to disconnect and connect again.
Yeah.
I think that what it was I altered.
Hey, I'm back.
Hey, hello.
Okay.
Who is
Hey,
it?
Brenda Debates, are you a trans?
Yes, I am.
You are.
Yeah. Welcome to the 21st century.
Yeah. Okay. What about the 20th century?
What about it? I
Were
was
there
born in it.
trans? Were there trans in 20th century?
Yep.
Okay. Let me ask you, what is a
There were
woman?
trans in the Bible.
Define a woman.
I don't have to. I don't have to jump through your hoops. You can ask
Okay.
and find out the answers to those things by yourself, right? You can ask and do research yourself. Go to Wikipedia and type in what is a woman, and it will tell you.
So Bobby, yeah, this is a flat Earth channel, right?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my gender identity has nothing to do with whether or not the Earth is flat. My political affiliation has nothing to do with whether or not the Earth is flat. Any of my my upbringing, anything, the color of my skin has nothing to do with whether or not the Earth is flat. The fact that I'm an atheist has nothing to do with whether or not the Earth is flat. Most Christians know that the Earth is not flat.
Okay. So
Believe. Go ahead.
No, they know. They have knowledge. They have knowledge. Knowledge is a justified true belief, right? So you have a belief, and if it's justified and it is true, then you can say, I know.
How do you know Eratosthenes lived? How do you know that?
It seems to be because he was quoted by other people who lived at the time. He is written down in books. There's
Brenda
probably
Debates,
more
what is
documentation.
your earliest source of that information?
For what information?
About Aristophanes. Tell me.
I don't know. I don't know. I read about him. I've read about him only, like, say, in sources online and stuff.
You saw him on Wikipedia. What is your source before Wikipedia, which did not exist before 2010?
Textbooks.
What is your source of Aristophanes before that?
Textbooks.
Show me one textbook with Aristophanes in it.
Well, it would have been an astronomy textbook, wouldn't it?
I'm telling you, there is no astronomy textbook.
Well, let's say that there was no Aristophanes. It doesn't mean.
No, not let's say. You show me.
Why?
Because you're claiming it.
But you see, so Brenda, that's an example of our saying you believe you justify that as knowledge, right? That's not fair because and then you
didn't say anything about it.
You used Eratosthenes earlier, didn't you? I thought you did.
Whether or not he exists, it doesn't have anything to do with the experiment that's attributed to him.
Yeah, and it's just like the photo of Earth from space that you brought up as well. You can't prove that ever happened.
Yes, I can.
Well, just by having a photo of Earth, I can produce a photo of Earth.
The camera's at Houston, right? The negative is at Houston.
It doesn't
It's
mean
there. It's
anything.
physics. What do you mean it doesn't mean anything? Those are
If
that's
I
evidence.
can make a
Okay,
I can make a
Brenda
photo
says
of
a
Earth and blow
negative
it up,
at
and then
Houston.
use a 35 millimeter camera and take a picture of it, and now I have negatives, and I have the camera that did
Yeah,
it, and I have.
yeah.
It's not hard to do. These aren't hard things to do, but you
But
you
have
talk
to
about it like that's
prove-
knowledge.
Yes, it is,
Yeah.
because you
So
have to prove
Brenda
that it was
mentions
faked.
negatives. Let me say something. Brenda mentions negatives. I've had thousands of hours with negatives and positives. I don't know if Brenda knows the difference between negatives and positives.
No,
I've had
the negative,
thousands of hours of
the film,
developing
dude.
both. And let me tell you this: these so-called claims of NASA of uh, for one, they don't have negatives; they have positives. They're slide films, and they do not.
It was a
claim-
Hasselblad 70 millimeter. It was a Hasselblad 70 millimeter. Right?
You're freaking crazy. It's not 70 millimeter. Hasselblads are not 70 millimeters.
This one was.
You don't know what you're talking about. Hasselblads
It's a
are not
Hasselblad.
70 millimeters.
How big is the lens?
You tell me. You tell me. How
Hmm.
big is a Hasselblad film? A film back. How big is a Hasselblad film back?
The lens, dude. The lens is 70
Not the
millimeters.
lens. Not the lens. The
What I
film.
said.
How
No, I
big is a
said this-
Hasselblad film back?
I said the lens is a 70 millimeter lens.
The lenses can be all kinds of millimeter lengths. How big is the Hasselblad film back? You don't know. You don't know. You're looking up. I hear the typing. You just don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I don't have to know things.
You have no experience with that. I have
Here it is.
thousands of
here it is.
hours with Hasselblads, and
Here it is.
I can
Here
tell
it is.
you.
Can I respond to you? The
Go ahead.
photographer used a 70 millimeter Hasselblad camera with an 80 millimeter Zeiss lens. NASA generally credits images.
You don't
to
even
whole
know the
crew.
pronunciation of it.
I don't care. That doesn't
You're
mean
just
that doesn't
making
mean
crap
anything.
up. You're making crap up.
No, I'm not. I'm just reading it off of Blue Marble, Wikipedia. NASA generally credits images to the whole crew of a mission. All crew members, Gene Cernan, Ronald Evans, and Harrison Schmitt, took photographs during the mission on board with the Hasselblad.
Let me
they
tell you
took
this.
the Blue
I've been
Marble image with a 70 millimeter Hasselblad camera with an 80
Brenda,
millimeter Zeiss lens.
how much Hasselblad have you shot?
None.
Okay, I've shot.
Does that mean that they didn't take it?
Hasselblad. I've shot tens of thousands of rolls of Hasselblad.
I don't care how many you've taken. What is that?
And, which means you don't know what you're talking about. You're quoting something that you don't know what you're talking about.
How so?
You don't even. Let me ask you this: what is a Hasselblad camera? What is it?
It's a Swiss camera, isn't it?
No, it's not even Swiss. You're so
Isn't it?
wrong. It's not even Swiss.
Oh, okay. No big deal. What difference does it make? Does it mean the photograph wasn't taken?
It means your claim is false. That's what it means.
No, it isn't. No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
The
My claim
Hasselblad
doesn't
is not even a
depend.
Swiss camera. It's a German camera. And
Yeah, that's fine.
and for photographers, there's actually it is the Hasselblad camera is an excellent camera. It's used by photographers since the 1960s, and I've used it in the 1980s.
None of this has
I've
anything
used
to
it
do with
since
this.
1980s. It's a film camera. Let me
Nobody
ask you
cares.
this: what
Nobody cares.
when
If
the
Johnny-
Hasselblad camera was created? Okay, when the Hasselblad camera was created, what is the size of the film format for the Hasselblad
Don't
camera?
care. Don't care.
You brought
Don't
it up.
care.
You say you don't care, but you brought
Yeah,
it up.
doesn't matter. If
You
Johnny,
brought it up. You brought it up.
if Johnny took a photograph, if I say Johnny took a photograph of the car crash with his Kodak camera, and it turns out that he didn't use a Kodak, he used a Nikon. Does that mean he didn't take the photograph of the camera
Okay.
of the crash?
The difference is that the Hasselblad has only one
does it
film
mean-
format. Hasselblad only has one film format. What is it?
Does it mean that he didn't take the photograph?
Yeah, if he claims the film format is different than what it is, like what you did, yes,
doesn't.
yes,
No, it
Yes.
doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that he didn't take the
It means you're
photograph.
a liar. That's what it means.
No,
You're a liar.
it just
It
means
means
I
you're a
made a
liar.
mistake. It just means I made a
means you're a
mistake.
liar.
That's all. No, it
It
doesn't.
means you're a liar. It means you're a liar.
No.
You don't know what you're talking about. You're making up
Lie is
crap.
intentional.
And you
The
have
lie
no
is intentional
experience with this.
deception.
You have no experience with
Doesn't
this
matter. I don't
camera.
have to have
You have no
experience.
experience with this film format, and you're making up crap. You're
I
just
don't have to
quoting
have
crap.
experience with it. I don't have to have experience. All that has to happen is that that camera was used to take that photograph. And if I make a mistake,
Okay.
it
You're
doesn't
making
affect.
claims. You're
Listen
making
to me.
false
Listen
claims. You're making
I'm
false
not.
claims. You're making false claims, and you have no experience, no knowledge, and you're just
It
pulling
doesn't
it
matter.
out of your ears. You're pulling it out of
It
your
doesn't
ears.
matter if I make a mistake as to the film back or to the maker of the camera. It has no bearing on the truth of whether or
Hey,
not
Bobby,
that
this
photograph
guy
was
is a
taken.
complete troll. This guy
No.
is a complete troll. He's just making up crap. He has no experience.
No,
He has
I'm not.
zero experience.
You say I'm making
I
things
can
up, but
tell you,
you're
I
just
have
lying.
thousands of hours of experience with Hasselblad. I have developed Hasselblad,
Yeah.
or I've developed Hasselblad
So what?
film format in Ektachrome. Let me ask you this, Mr. Brenda. What
My pronouns are she and her, please.
I don't give a crap about your pronouns. Let me ask you this. What are
Well, then you
your
can go
what experience do you have with Hasselblad films? What are
absolutely
the film
zero.
ISOs?
Absolutely
What are
zero.
the film ISOs? Tell me
Absolutely
what
zero. I have
form,
no experience. I
what ISOs for the
I
film
have no
exist
experience.
for
I have no
Hasselblad?
experience. I have no experience with them.
Okay, so quit making claims about
That
this.
doesn't mean my
this
claim is
format.
false. That doesn't make my claim
No,
false.
it means you have no credibility. That's what it means.
No, the source has the credibility, not me.
What source? Tell me your source.
NASA. Right? Those people went in that craft, and one of them turned around and snapped a picture.
Well, we all saw that on A Funny Thing Happened Out of the Way of the Moon, and I saw him taking a picture of a window from far away. That's what I saw.
Yeah. Do you know that was faked?
You know, I need to say nothing more.
Have you seen Jen Panda's? Have you seen Jen Panda's debunking of A Funny Thing Happened?
If it was faked,
completely debunked. Brenda is completely debunked. Brenda,
No, you haven't debunked anything.
Mr. Brenda has no experience, no knowledge,
That doesn't
no
matter.
expertise. Brenda
doesn't
is
matter.
completely debunked.
No, that doesn't. You're just making shit up. So it doesn't
No,
matter
you're
as to
making
the
up crap.
truth.
I have experience with it. I have expertise.
It doesn't.
I'm telling
Who
you,
gives a
I
shit?
could
Nobody
be a
cares.
subject matter expert in court. I could be a subject matter
Yeah.
expert in court. I have
How is your?
I
How
have
would your?
at least 40 years experience with this film and
Okay.
camera format. What experience
Okay.
do you have?
Okay. Bring your expertise to bear on the subject. Was that photograph taken by that camera?
I'd say it's impossible.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
You got.
I'd
Go
say
ahead.
it's impossible.
Bring your expertise.
Yeah, this is my expertise. I have taken this film, which is actually, it's not.
You've
What
never
did you say,
examined the
70
film.
millimeter? It's not 70 millimeter. It's 35.
You've never examined the film. You've never examined the film.
I
have no.
absolutely have examined
It's
the
a
film.
70 millimeter Hasselblad with an 80 millimeter Zeiss lens.
Okay, so this film has a very narrow temperature tolerance.
Yep.
The tolerance is about 0 degrees to 130 degrees. And I can tell you this is from photographing weddings. I've photographed hundreds of weddings with this film, both.
They didn't take an off-the-shelf camera, did they? They specifically.
It's not about the camera. It's about the film. It's not about the camera. It's about the film.
They used their own film too.
And
it
would not matter. It would not matter about the camera.
They used a special
has
film.
That temperature tolerance, and you cannot get above 130 degrees Fahrenheit tolerance with that film. I know from experience because I've lost film that was left on the dashboard of a van that got ruined in that van, that film in the van.
They didn't use an off-the-shelf camera, dude.
No, it's not a dude.
They didn't use one.
I don't use off-the-shelf cameras. I don't use off-the-shelf cameras. I've photographed weddings.
Did you buy a Hasselblad?
What?
You bought a Hasselblad.
No,
right?
I have many Hasselblads.
Yes,
Many
and
Hasselblads.
you bought them from
Let me
retail.
ask you this: what are the Hasselblad models? You tell me, what are the Hasselblad models?
I have no
bet
idea.
you don't know.
Yeah,
you don't even know the Hasselblad models. Tell me.
Don't have a clue. Don't have a clue.
Exactly. You
What do
have
you mean
no
exactly?
idea what you're talking about.
The fact is that there was a camera.
No, you don't know any facts. You don't know any facts.
The fact is that there was a special camera made
you don't know
especially
any
by
facts.
NASA.
You have no knowledge.
Stop interrupting.
No knowledge of any facts.
Be a man, and be polite, right?
Mr. Brenda, Mr.
Be a man. Be a man.
You have no knowledge of any facts. You have no knowledge of photography. You have no knowledge.
It doesn't matter. It
Yes,
matter.
it does matter. You're making claims. You have no knowledge of any facts. Shut up. You have no knowledge of facts. I do. I have been photographing with Hasselblads since 1982. And I had a study of cameras with medium format, of large format, and small format cameras that predated 1982 because that was my study. My study of cameras go back to the 1860s, where there were large and medium format cameras. You have no freaking knowledge of that.
I don't care.
Technology.
It doesn't matter.
If you could even call it technology, because because these cameras used film with black and white with silver nitrate and gold nitrate. You have no freaking knowledge of this. You have no freaking knowledge. You have no freaking knowledge of the temperature tolerances of these films, from which NASA claims to have used these same films in space. You have no freaking knowledge. Any decent photographer knows that the NASA claims, if they look at them, do not stand up to the test of.
That's not true. That's not true. That's not true.
Yeah,
what was his name? Kevin McKeegan has shown that it was taken. He's a photographer. He's a better photographer than you.
Who's a photographer?
McKeegan.
You know what? There are many photographers that are better than me, but
Dave McKeegan.
Many, but no photographer will agree that plastic film with gold nitrate or silver nitrate can sustain temperatures.
Is that what they used? Is that what they used? Did they use silver nitrate? Is that what they used?
Absolutely. No, not
you don't know that.
Nitrate.
You don't know that.
It's a composite of gold and silver nitrate.
You don't know what they used.
That's what they claim they used.
No, they don't. You don't know what they used.
Oh, it's.
Why don't you, instead of just spouting off about something you know nothing about, why don't you look it up?
Wow, I never looked it up. You got me there.
You should.
Oh, I never looked it up. You got me there. I never knew that they had some kind of film that was not available to me. Wow, you got me.
Yes,
you win.
They used a special housing.
They have unobtainium. Unobtainium film.
No, they used a special what is it? Housing without oil, so that it didn't bubble up in the vacuum.
Films have oil on them. You're so freaking crazy. There's no films with oil on them.
Just listen. I didn't say film.
You have no idea what you're talking about.
I didn't say film.
I have developed so many tens of thousands of rolls of film in color and black and white. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Dude,
you're completely wrong.
I didn't say film.
Bobby,
I said
I'm going to leave it at that. This guy is so completely wrong.
I didn't say film, idiot. I said the housing, the joints in the housing didn't use oil. how they didn't use oil, right?
Okay, tell me what the housing is. I know what the housing is. I bet you don't. Tell me about it.
I don't know.
Exactly. So you claimed you don't know anything of what you're talking about.
None of that affects the facts. It was painted white in order to reflect that light and to make it not get hot in the sun. They used oilless interfaces for the housing.
Okay, why would there be a need for oil or oilless?
And they used a special film. They used a special film, and the camera was used. The camera was used to. Excuse me. The camera was used to take a photograph. That photograph is a physical entity that you can inspect. The camera is a physical entity that you can look at. All of that is physical items at the Houston Space Center. You can go and look at them. You have nothing. All you have is your claimed use in the past, which is irrelevant to whether or not that camera was used to take that photograph.
What are your claims?
That the camera took that photograph.
How do you know that?
Because there is a camera, there's a photograph, there is documentation, there is a chain of custody.
There's no chain of custody.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
NASA says they lost it all. There is no claim of custody. NASA claims they lost it all.
They didn't. That's not what we're talking about. You're talking about the telemetry data, which is a different thing. We're talking about the documentation of
the telemetry. It's the photographic evidence. Okay.
No photographs. No photographs were lost.
Okay. Produce them. Tell me. Show me. Produce them. I can
They're
tell
on their
you this.
website. They're on their website.
Film code. Okay, let me ask you this: what are the different kinds of film that can be used? What are the kinds that can be used?
Don't know. Doesn't matter.
Well, they have film tolerances, so you're making claims. Tell me what the film.
No. I can just. All I have to do is say that NASA has that data. I don't have to.
No, they don't. They don't have that data.
Yes, they do.
Okay, if they have it, show me. Where is it?
On their website.
You made a claim. Show me where
download the link. You can download the photographs in their original resolution.
Okay, post the link to
you do it. I don't have to do your work for you.
No, you claimed it. I'm not claiming it.
I don't have to do your work for you. Anybody, and lots of
You're
people
a liar.
do go to.
You're a liar.
That's not true.
You made a claim. Post a link to the reference of the film. Post a reference to it. Bobby, he's a liar. Bobby, you're muted. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I said I certainly agree with you. I disagree with Brenda. I should say, right?
Based on what?
Well, I've watched videos of actual Hasselblad.
Watched videos.
Well, hold on. You didn't let me finish.
Well, he doesn't let me
said
finish.
I watched videos.
Why should I let you, Bobby? He interrupted every single sentence of mine. Why should you get treated any better, right? Why should you get treated better if he was rude to me? Right?
Why would you take that out on me?
Because you're the mod. You should have stepped in and stopped him.
I'm not a moderator.
Yes, you are. This is your channel. This is your channel. You have a moral obligation to interrupt when people are being abusive, and you should have stopped him.
Brenda,
I'm not a moderator. I never claimed to be. I said everyone gets free.
We got the Nazi
here.
Did you know that Iron Horse is a Nazi?
All right.
Did you?
I'm gonna moderate.
Welcome.
I just moderated. Brenda, look, if you're on, I love you. I've got no hatred for nobody, but it's, we made it a dumpster fire. But you know what? We have someone that I love listening to talk. Iron Horse, glad you joined the channel for once. So,
hey, Iron Horse, can I ask you one question?
That is a question. Finished radio. G'day, Bobby.
Exactly right. Thank you. How long has it taken you to grow your beard?
Oh, since I started. I've lost count. I've always had a beard since I was about 17. Had a goatee.
Is that 10 years or 5 years?
It's 4 to 5. Yeah.
Wow, very good. Okay, enough of that. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Bobby. Haven't seen a great lot of your channel, but what I have seen, I've really liked. So
it's not even really a channel,
except for that
but
with Brenda, that's always yes.
Well, you know, my intent was, I always said, this is for the community. So I'm not, I like listening to people talk. Anyone's welcome to join.
Sweet.
I love watching your debates, by the way. I think I've seen all your debates on Modern Day Debate. So
yeah, thanks.
I always like your intros are great. Love your intros.
Cheers. Yeah, I often write them sort of in the last minute, or give them a bit of thought for a few days and then write it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be back on there for a little while. It seems I've upset a few people. I seem to be good. Like everyone thinks I'm a Nazi. I keep saying I was apparently called a Nazi. Like that's news to me. I know very little about the German people themselves. I'm interested in, say, the Aryan people, because I think that's half of the word of the Tartarians, and as we know that the tartans is the like the kilts, whatever, say the Scottish people wear, and the Irish sort of does sound a bit like Irish, you know, Aryan. So the Tartarian seems to me like there was an empire of people that had taken, well, had gifted the world heaps and heaps of technology, but that's just another story for another day. Flat Earth is my thing. I don't know much about.
I think it all ties together, though, right? Like at some point, it's just a never-ending search to try to find truth.
Yeah, for sure.
And it arguably just gets more confusing. But the one thing I'm confident about is, for me, it's knowledge. It's something I know, right? Other people, what's subjective for one person, subjective for another, is that the Earth is flat. I'm with you. I'm with you, brother.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's the biggest game changer that we've had in a long time. Like, I'm personally quite confident that all people throughout history did know and believe the Earth was flat. There's a philosophical preference from some of the Greeks, perhaps, that said, you know, it had the potential to be spherical. But when it comes down to evidence for it and their proof, all they've got is this Eratosthenes dude, which obviously that would have died away with a nearby local sun on a flat surface. And for head librarian, there's very little recorded works of him. So that's a sort of a big fail as far as the globe evidence goes. And we constantly hear them saying, we've known for thousands of years that the Earth's a globe. And yet, if we bring up anything, like I'm not a biblical scholar, I'd never bring it up. But if anybody does, they say, oh, that old thing from over 2,000 years ago. It's like,
right,
both ways.
Right.
Old knowledge is useless, unless it's our old knowledge, in which case it's perfect. Yeah. And
people just assume that we've been teaching in schools for hundreds of years, or arguably thousands of years. I love that Dave dug up, this, I shouldn't say dug up, but, found this elderly lady, right? And she testified that they taught her in school it was a flat Earth, and I don't doubt that they taught that was the norm 100 years ago, right?
Yeah,
of course,
absolutely.
they have the history book, so all they have to do is say, no, we've been teaching this for hundreds of years. Who's going to argue? Who's around to argue with us?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I was explaining it to a bunch of guys once at a bowling club nearby town, Mullumbimby. A lot of people know it. It's got a bit of a reputation from back in the day, Mullumbimby, the Mullumbimby madness. Anyway, so it's a bowling club. It's full of straights and everything. And I had a bit of a reputation going around that, he's a flat earther. And they all thought it was pretty funny. So they sort of sat around a table one day and asked me to explain it, because they were a bit curious and I wasn't backing down. Normally nobody asks, so I don't bring it up. But I said, yeah, well, this is how it works. And so I said, well, there's the North Pole in the center. There's all the continents around it, and the sun goes around the North Pole and all this. And meanwhile, at a table just next to us, here's this old fella, old Bill, and he's like 96 years old. And after I'd explained it to everybody for ages and answered all their questions, he pipes up, he's right, that's how we were taught it. So that's exactly how it was taught 90 years ago. So, yeah.
Isn't it weird? Like, do you find yourself, when I go out, my wife has lots of friends. My wife still gets along in, regular society normally. She goes to her gatherings or whatever you call them, birthday parties or whatnot. But when I go to these places, what's important to them isn't important to me. I have a hard time trying to enjoy myself with a group of people that aren't truthers, right? That aren't seeking truth, right? I don't want to hear about who won the football game. I don't care about any of the stuff they're talking about. You can't even talk about religion because they have a different view on, well, I don't believe in religion. You know, I'm a Christian. I follow Christ. I'm still confused. You can't even say that right? I don't know, which I don't know. Where are you? Are you
I'm a huge fan of Jesus the Christ, but from my perspective, he was never a Christian. You know, he was the Christ, and the Christed one just means became knowledgeable. You know, he was very smart as a child, and he was picked up by some, you know, scholars, which was generally done through the churches and whatnot. And from, you know, from a young age, he began traveling, and he traveled all through India and Tibet and all the rest. And he learned off all the great healers. So he was one of the most knowledgeable people because he was very clued on, and he understood a lot of things intuitively. And he was even able to teach some of the great teachers himself because of his wisdom. So by the time he came back to Jerusalem, as they say, anybody, it's any prophet from their hometown is never recognized, something like that. You know, like everywhere else he went, he's treated as this, you know, very honorable guest. But by the time he gets back home, that's when all the trouble began. And of course, he wasn't allowed to teach in the synagogues until after his 30 years of age. So he was about 33 by that stage. And when he did go to the synagogues, found them, you know, they'd become basically money exchanging places. And that's when he grew furious, you know, whipped up a cord and overturned the tables, which I think that's basically where we're at today, is we need a new Christ consciousness of all of humanity. That's what he said. His message is to bring this consciousness so that we can all have it. And basically, if we overturn the bankers' tables, because they're the ones calling all the shots today, that's where we're at now. And I think. Yeah.
So do you think, you know, what are your thoughts? Do you think the world's going to wake up, or do you think we're going to lose this fight? Like, what do you believe? What's your gut tell you?
The world is waking up. I think a lot of people are awakened to it, but we sort of feel pretty helpless. You know, we've got no unity. We've been shut down every.
Yeah, look what happened there. Like, I mean, I watched when Australia got shut down hard, man. You guys were being thrown in camps, right? Like no one rose up, nobody fought.
Not sure that far, but like where I was also, you know, went through some pretty major floods, but I was living extremely isolated anyway, so my lifestyle didn't change one way or the next. If anything, the government was giving us cash bonuses and stuff, so I just went, oh well, fine, I'll take it. And yeah,
we saw a video here again. There's no telling what's true and what's not, right? I have my own beliefs, but we saw videos of like camps that they were putting people in, like with trailers, and people would try to come outside their door, and they were getting like hit with, you know, with like the butts of guns and stuff. You know, it looked pretty violent. Right. It looked pretty.
I didn't quite see
dystopian
like that, but I definitely did see that. One of the major towns nearby did have a camp set up, like you're talking about. There was all mobile homes, camper trucks. I think. Looks like my phone keeps wanting to go to sleep. Yeah, and that was a bit of an eye opener to me, because these people, but they were put there for quarantine purposes because apparently they had this fictitious disease. So, but I didn't see much of that myself. What I saw on the news was more people in the bigger cities like Melbourne, for example, was pretty full on. You know, they were held captive in big apartment buildings and whatnot, but we're not a huge gun society in Australia. So this thing about people being held at gunpoint or whatever, or hit with guns, I haven't seen any of that in Australia. So I've heard
it might not have been guns. It just seemed like I have a memory of them accosting them in some way. Like maybe they had something in their hands. I don't know. I can't remember. It might not have been guns. But
yeah.
I just remember I remember they would try to open their doors, and they would like get really mean with them and make them go back inside the doors.
Right. Yeah. Fortunately for me, you know, I isolate myself from society anyway, and I have very little to do with what's happening in the cities. So I think they have, you know, copped it a lot worse than what I've experienced. So I can't really speak on that myself. But what you say,
I don't know, man.
Waking up to fight against it. We're a very weak nation when it comes to that. You know, we can't. Yeah, we're too late.
But we're at end game though. This is interesting, right? Like, you know, I work a mainstream job. I work IT, and every day is a battle for me to work, right? Like every day I just want to come in and just, because the last thing on my mind is working. You know, here we are in it's end game, right? And this is the most important time in history, arguably. And I'm still doing an 8 to 5 job, which I don't know how much longer, right? I'm trying to, I'm at this really weird thing where I'm like, I got to save and, prep as much as I can, right? Like we don't know how bad things are going to get. So you're like, well, I got to work a little bit longer, prep some more rice, prep some more of this, get ready for this, have a, some little stock of cash here. Yeah, I'm curious to see how bad things get.
Yeah, I think the best way of prepping basically is prepare to be able to grow as much of your own food as you possibly can. So, if you're saving food, make sure you're saving seed as well, because I think that's going to.
I think you're out. How desolate are you? Like how far away are your neighbors?
I'm in the edge of a town now. It's only a small town of about 1,000, 1,500 people. Suffered really badly during the floods we had this time, or a bit earlier last year. Got hammered. So my nearest neighbour is actually the landlord. He's maybe only 100 metres away, but we're quite separate. Got plenty of friendly, quiet neighbours across the road. I live across the road from a cemetery, so I don't hear too much from them. It's 100 acres to out that way. So just basically bare, beautifully flat land. It's one of the things that I really love about it, is just how flat it is and how far you can see. The distant mountains would have to be at least 20 to 30 kilometres away, and you can see them all the time. Beautiful sunsets here. It's not my first choice of place to live, but it's what I've got at the moment, and I'm making the most of it. It's been good.
I'm going to ask a really stupid question, but I'm honestly curious. Like, are there kangaroos all over the place? Like, do they come up to your property?
I've seen them here. Yeah, I filmed some just the other day. There's a small group of them just over there. Where I was, only sort of 10 minutes up the road here. Previously, when I was living in a caravan, no running water, I had electricity. Did it pretty tough there for a bit. I'd have roos there all the time. Like some mornings I'd come out and there's a big group of all the young studs having their big fights, and you'd hear all this thumping and carrying on, and you'd pick.
Now, can you walk up and feed these kangaroos? No, you stay the heck away from
them. They're
them.
wild animals. Yeah, you wouldn't want to.
Yeah. Okay.
I've seen a big buck.
Just curious.
This big buck is a big old fella. I've seen him getting around on his own sometimes. He's been pretty huge, but you look at him and he looks at you, and you just keep your distance. Yeah. Tame in any way.
Yeah. Well, we see them like, big mice. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. A mouse that can kick my butt, man. That's crazy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They've got massive claws on them too. But their biggest weapon is actually sitting back on their tail and using their back feet like that. And you see them hitting each other on the chest.
I'm sure you've seen the video of the guy punching, like for his dog. He went to save his dog and he punched the kangaroo. That's crazy.
Yeah. That's that can easily happen. Yeah, and it does sort of knock them for a 6 because they're not punches so much, but if they clawed at you, like I've seen one of them actually grab another one by the head and nearly rip his head off. It's like that was pretty full on.
What's going on, Justin?
Hey, Bobby. Appreciate you having me on.
Hey,
Aaron.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey,
I watched some of the debates as well, and just nice to see the guys doing the good fight, and Bobby, really enjoyed just having, I don't know, Brenda's.
We lost you. I look, just for the record, I've told Brenda before, there's been plenty of times Brenda's asked to come on, and I've been like, no, I don't want to argue. But we were at the end of the show and no one wanted to come on, or, the end of the cast. And I thought, well, no one else is wanting to come on. I've got a few more minutes in me. Let's start the dumpster fire.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was on. I was having a beautiful Sunday morning here, actually, doing a bit of gardening and picked some fresh herbs. I've made some fresh bread. I've just got the rolls sitting. I'll bake them shortly, and just been having a really chill morning. And then I realised, I better check YouTube, and sure enough, you're on. So finish my brunch and come on.
What's funny, and part of the reason I do it is the #1 viewed live stream I had was what I called the Brenda-sode, right? So that one time I did a Brenda's, everyone got in, right? Because I don't know.
Everyone loves controversy, man. I mean, that's what
they do. They love it.
I have a far better time if I go on to debate to talk with somebody who disagrees with me, because that way I can test out my theories, and as much as to share them with the listeners more than anything. I know I'll never convince the person who's debating that is dead set we live on a spinning ball hurtling through a vacuum of space. I mean, the more you think about just how ridiculous that sounds, the more you say it, the crazier it seems. And don't get me wrong, I was a dead set Helios back in my day. You know, I
me too.
my whole spiritual beingness, you know, was that we lived on this special little blue ball in a special relationship, Goldilocks zone going around the sun. I didn't realise that the sun was actually hurtling through the sky at over 500,000 miles an hour. I still thought heliocentrism meant the same, basically still, but the more you look into it, the more you realise how absurd and how impossible it actually every part of it is.
Absolutely. What's up? We lost you mid sentence, Justin.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was trying to get situated. I apologize.
Living it up.
Where are you?
Maui.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, you still got some sun there. It's totally pitch black here, but all right.
Yeah, we're yeah, it's nice. I figured I'd come down here where I have a 10-year-old son. He can be kind of interruptive.
Are you a Maui native?
No, California originally.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you mentioned you know, Kingdom in Context. I think it was last week. You said you've been enjoying his content, all his research, and I watched his a lot of his Babylon series recently.
Yeah.
And it just crushes. I mean, connecting all the. It's interesting. Like, kind of what was coming to mind is a while, like probably like 10 years ago, I watched a couple videos on the Catholic Church in the 6th century actually creating Islam. So it's the same thing with just a different outfit. And it was just really like spot on. The guy's Walter Veith on YouTube, called the Islam Connection. If anyone wants to check it out, it's the guy's really well versed in it. And then to kind of tie that into the what's his name on Kingdom in Context? I'm forgetting his name now.
Sean Griffin. Sorry. Sean Griffin's his name.
Yeah, Sean, thank you.
Yeah. Here's the thing about Sean is I've never seen anyone with a brain like that. Man, the guy can quote. It's crazy. And he it's like he knows everything about every apocryphal scripture and every language, and then he just ties it all together. So that I've never seen that breadth of knowledge before.
And he's just got that cool, calm demeanor, which is nice. You know, I've seen him in some arguments with people, and he really keeps his cool. I appreciate that.
I think I consider him, I'm sure Iron Horse could run with this. I consider him a master debater. There's no other way you can say that, right? Like the guy, he puts down his foot eloquently, you know, like he has no problem checking someone, but I don't think he can do it better. I just admire, I love watching him, you know, having discussions with other theologians. I love to me, he's got the best channel right now for me.
Well, I really miss.
But I think.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Rob Skiba, I know where you're going. Rob Skiba. That's who I followed most before Sean was Rob Skiba, and luckily someone pointed Sean to me, and that's kind of filling that gap right now.
I can relate.
Who's this fella you're talking about, Sean?
Well, for me. And I've watched quite a few people. I've watched Tim Mackey. I've watched Kent Hovind. I've watched Ken Ham. I've watched just tons of theologians.
Okay.
And this guy, Sean Griffin, is the most knowledgeable person about Christianity and the Bible, the Old Testament, Judaism, Babylon. He's taken everything and he's pulled it all together, and he calls his channel Kingdom in Context because he's used all this other knowledge to define, you know, Christianity from he's a Christian, right? And for me right now, that I kind of consider him my main teacher. He doesn't know me from Adam, but yeah, that's where I'm getting all my guidance right now.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, honestly, like what I will say this about the Bible. Even if I weren't a Christian today, like I think smart people at least have read the Bible. This is one of the oldest books that we have, and it is crossed countries and cultures, and people have been persecuted for it, and it's been tried to be kept under wraps. And there's information there, and I don't care if it's a little bit or a lot or completely. If people can't understand that there's truth and there's very valuable information in that book, I don't know, everyone has their own journey.
What do you think about the Apocrypha? I mean, because he's really well versed on Enoch and Jubilees and all that.
I audiobook everything because there's a lot of time I'm traveling. So I honestly, if I'm not watching some channel where they're breaking it down for me, I'm listening to an audiobook. But I've listened to the Book of Enoch 5 times, and I've listened to the Book of Jasher, and I've listened to one or two other. But yeah, I mean, it's got information that, with giants and the Nephilim, and for me, the Book of Enoch.
Well, it seems like
really
if the Catholic Church, just go with me, if they are the Babylon Church with a new outfit, then you have these books that really depict in more detail the firmament, giants. It would make sense if this was a plan all along to create this deception,
It says it. It says there'll be It says it in the Book of Enoch. It says there'll be a great deception perpetrated on even the elect, right? Like, what is that deception? It goes on to say that the elect will take the stars as gods. And what do we, all of our, the planets, what do we name them all? They're all named after gods. So,
and I think the public's confusion is that you have all these ancient empires with a bunch of confusing names like Zeus and Apollo, but they're like pretty much the same thing, just lined up with different makeup on, different names.
I believe so, and that goes right back to Babylon. Like the story of Babylon says we were confounded into like 70 some odd languages or 70 languages. So all these gods in different languages had different names, but they were the same gods.
Right.
But if you start looking at these stories, and I spent a lot of time looking at the story, all around the world, and they all have the flood story. They all have man being made from clay. In Sumerian times, Noah was Utnapishtim, and he had a 500 cubit boat, and he had all the animals on it. But you start looking at whether it's Nordic theology or whether you're looking at Hindu theology, they're incredibly similar, and they definitely pull from the same stories, right? So to me, that's an affirmation for me. Like when I read that, I'm like, man, it just seems like there's different parts of the story with the different cultures, right? So you couldn't put the entire story in one book. That's just how I look at it. So some people have a problem with me when I look at Sumer. I've read the Enuma Elish several times, which is arguably the oldest book in, the first book in human history, and then the Epic of Gilgamesh, and I try to read the oldest history forward. That's an interesting journey for me.
In that light, how it simplifies things. I think that's what I really appreciate about that insight. It can seem so convoluted and confusing, but then when you start to see it's all the same, like back to my point about Catholicism and Islam being the exact same thing. Like even in the symbology of the crescent with the star in it, which is primarily in Islam culture, but like you see it in the Catholic Church with the Eucharist, and such.
And I think that represents that you see stars through the moon, right? Like I think that's kind of like a hidden.
I never really thought of that, but it's cool.
If you look at them, they all have a crescent, but then the star is in the crescent. It's not outside of the crescent. So I think it represents truth that, and we have it.
I personally think that star actually is the moon. That's my take on it. I was watching the new moon over the last couple of days. Because I leave quite early in the morning from my current job, so I'm sort of leaving about 5:15 in the morning, so it's still dusk. and watching as the moon got thinner and thinner each morning, and seeing where this star was in relationship to it. Like 2 days before it's new, you see this crescent moon with the star, which we're told is Venus. It's between it and the horizon, but then just the very next day, here's this star well above the moon. And then on Friday, there was no moon to be seen whatsoever, but you could see the star because obviously when it's new, it rises the same time as the sun. So this is just my personal theory. I think that star it's reflecting sunlight. A lot of people think that the moon doesn't, but I think it does. But it then projects that into our lower atmosphere, the firmament B, as I call it, which is only 12 to 14 miles high, so less than 20 kilometers. And that's where we see the holographic projection of the moon. That's why we all see the exact same phase at the same time that we're seeing it. And yeah, I know I'm taking a bit off topic from what you guys are talking, but
No,
me,
please. I like where you're
very,
going, but it reminds me of like the Batman signal, you know, in the same respect.
yeah, only this
The way
is
it's
coming
projected.
from the star much higher.
Yeah, the others.
So
Yeah,
it
the other
actually
side.
projected down into it, and so in that respect,
You know,
I'm not sure that the dome is even dome shaped as such. I think it might be more inverted
one
pyramid
of my
shape.
thoughts in terms of the moon's light is, you know, when you have one of those glow in the dark stickers and you have to put light on it before you turn the lights off,
Yeah,
and then it glows. Maybe there's some sort of gleaning of power from the sun. The moon, in fact, glows itself or lights itself.
I've heard similar sort of theories, and I just don't think it's really necessary because, as I say, that the moon that we call the moon that we see is the holographic projection. So it does glow in its own right.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
The fact that the sky glowing blue during daytime is all the noble gases of the atmosphere within this lower area, the firmament below the firmament B, which is gaseous. They are what glow and creates daylight. So the moon itself, it is taking another vibration or whatever, another frequency of the sunlight and projecting that. And that's why we can sometimes, well, we often see the moon in the daytime, but only the bit that is lit by the sun. The bit that's not lit by it doesn't project anything into it. So for all intents and purposes, it's not there, it's not visible. We feel
It's a
like we're seeing
reflection.
blue sky through it, but we're actually not. We're seeing it through the blue sky, but only the sunlit part is what gets holographically projected. Yeah, so it's and it's quite dim in daytime, but at nighttime it appears really bright because it is actually causing those gases to glow in that region. So technically the moon is producing its own light, but it is still reflected solar energy, not necessarily sunlight.
Yeah, interesting.
And quite like the star.
Yeah, I follow you on.
Yeah, I've often wondered how it is that from all these different points in the flat Earth, we see the same. You know, like how did they accomplish? How can that be? Right? Like I pondered that many times. But yeah, I never thought of it being a reflection. That's an interesting.
See, as you say, yeah, you got to question everything. And for me, all these things were mysterious to me for a long time. Like even how we have longer daylight hours in the outer hemisphere outside the equator during our summer, and you guys have longer ones during your summer, obviously on the inner side of it, while we're having shorter ones. So all these things, you have to think about them and mull them over for a long time. And so it became the same. The moon phases. Why do we see the same phase everywhere? Because the same part of the moon is always by the sun. So everybody sees the same projection, just in their line of sight to that star, which is the actual sun, maybe 3,200 miles high.
I think what gives credence to your point of view is that the sun, for instance, has to go faster when it's over Australia versus when it's in the inner circle over our summer. And so if it's a projection, that makes more convenience to the fact that it's just changing its angle, but it's really rotation is the same, whatever it is projecting.
For the sun, absolutely, yeah. It could be something, say, like a lighthouse spinning around, and all that to do is change the angle outwards onto the actual firmament.
Yeah, thank you. You said it better.
And then it creates the extra light. Yeah, so definitely.
Yeah, I've seen
spinning the same speed the whole time.
Yeah. And some things I'm just like, you know, I could theorize so many things, but sometimes I just go, it's not worth it. We're going to know in the end, you know, like right
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
it's just beyond our comprehension. I've seen the black hole, like center of the earth theory, where some people say the sun's in the center there and it's reflecting off the firmament down. You know, there's been lots of theories.
I just saw that
we're really not going to know
yesterday, actually, and it sort of blew my mind a bit because it's very, very close to things that I've been working out myself. I don't know if you can see. I've still got it up there. That's how I've sort of drawn what I think maybe the firmament is like. So the black hole sun technically could be down here if that's the level of the Earth type of thing. It is quite interesting to see that things that some people can work out independently match things that perhaps have been understood and told a long time before. And I'm not learning anything new. I'm not making anything up. I'm just sort of basically, deciphering the truth as I've seen it myself. And so that's how I think if the sky is sort of like this skylight with the intersecting, as above, so below type of thing, then the sky that we see at night could just be a facet, like a pyramid facet. So the facet we see here is the exact same facet as it's rotated around. So that's why people in Africa and South America seem to see their own southern celestial pole, because they're actually looking at the same sky. It's just the facet of it. In fact, this little doodad here, I think it's an interesting little one. If I can bring up the camera, it's just a glass pyramid with a little kiwi inside of it. But if you look at each of the reflections as you turn it, each one shows the face sort of reflecting off the other side. So, if half of that is night and half of it is day, then technically we'll see the exact same nighttime sky and 90 degrees angle difference, because night is always, the four corners of the Earth basically are all exhibited in a pyramid. So it seems as though if the stars are actually still rotating around Polaris in the center, what we see outside that intersection point is going to appear to go the opposite direction, but still show the same in all four corners of the world during that particular night time. So that's the theory I'm working hard on at the moment.
It's interesting. It's very intuitive, very intuitive.
Because what's on the inside, the inside of the equator, is very straightforward. You see the exact same star trails. It's only as you reach the equator, they start to straighten up and then start to bend and go the opposite directions.
So I got a question for you, Iron Horse. Do you think the elites know the true nature? You think they actually know exactly what we're in, or what do you think?
I'm pretty sure there are some that do, but as to how far that goes, I don't think most world governments know. I think they're just as clueless. I think they're raised in the knowledge.
So we share the belief that there's a cabal, for lack of a better word, that may not be the right word, that definitely controls the world governments, right?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Well, and that's I've heard it been said, like there's a second veil. So there's a first veil, and then you see all these like occult rituals, and people are just part of something that they're so invested in. They've given oaths that they're just like, I'm not gonna bug out now and just jeopardize my whole trajectory in life. And then there's a veil beyond that of people that we don't see, as far as the public, the more inner circle, so to speak.
Yeah, like I've spent, say, many years just going out at night and observing the stars, and spending hours doing it too, because the little dog I had back then had severe breathing issues. So I couldn't take him out for the daytime; he would just suffer too much. So I'd take him out at night. I'd take a beer with me or a couple of spares in my bag, and just stay out there under the stars watching, and I'd see some amazing things. And they're trying to see how this fits with the globe model, for example. Always see the Southern Cross in the same direction. So I know the southeast. And sometimes, you see things you'd think are satellites. But on the occasional night, you see one, then another, then a group of they're just star-like looking objects, but you'd think they're satellites. But they all go from south to north in a direct straight line. It's almost as though they're all heading towards a meeting somewhere in the north. And the only thing we've got in the south of Australia is Antarctica. So how could so many things be coming from that direction, especially if the Earth only spins towards the east? I live near the easternmost part of Australia. That's the reason I moved up here. So I'm very clear with the geography, the directions, where the stars are, and so forth. And so to watch like hundreds of these things sort of like all going to somewhere just on this one particular night. Other nights you might only see 3 or 4, sometimes none, sometimes 30. You know, there's definitely other craft up there which obviously belong to people of intelligence, and we're clueless as to what's really going on. We just get told satellites, and that's a great cover story. So anybody who thinks they're smart, oh, that's a satellite. No, and that's all they think about. It's just a satellite. But they're clued in, but it's like, it can't possibly be. You know, if we had geostationary satellites, for example, well, they wouldn't even seem to be moving. If we had ones that aren't geostationary, well, that'd be, you'd see it according to the rotation of the Earth going forward.
The satellite.
1 second, I want to hear the answer to this question as well. Cannon Carroll said, do you ever see shooting stars coming from south to north, or do you always see them going from east to west?
Shooting stars generally do seem to go downwards, but I have seen them, you know, it depends. If you're laying on your back, you haven't really got that directional thing, so they can seem to be going upwards. You know, all direction is actually quite subjective. It's a big perspective thing, but sometimes I've seen things shoot sideways. But in generally speaking, if you're standing upright and looking around and you see a shooting star, it's going downwards. Yeah.
Sorry about that, Justin. Go ahead.
Oh, no worries. I was just curious. Do you think that a satelloon has a light source on it? So, you know,
generally
see like.
Okay. Soon after sunset, you can see them. Well, what I would call a satelloon, but I've often seen things when I really look. I've lost them somewhere. I used to have these really, really strong prescription glasses where I could see everything crystal clear. And I'd often see brown orbs, like things which I would think, that's a satelloon. And they're so dim you can barely see them at all. But because I trained myself over years to be looking at the sky and looking for anomalies and things, I've definitely seen big orb things there, which I'd say, yeah, satelloons for sure. Yeah. Now, they make sense that we could have satelloons. Satellites on the spinning spaceport, they wouldn't be able to keep up with this. I don't care how much gravity you throw into them. You know, it's one of the things that I like to argue, even with myself, just logically. You know, if you ride a bike around a parked car, you can do that all day, not a problem. As soon as that car starts moving, you all of a sudden to orbit that car, you're going completely different speed. You accelerate, brake, speed up, go around, slide around, everything just to stay the same distance. So if something's going 67,000 miles an hour through the sky following the sun, a satellite in free fall speed must be on that galactic accelerated speed, then slow down to come around and us. Satellites on the heliocentric model basically destroys the heliocentric model once you think about them.
Well, I've been trying to formulate, you know, an easy way to communicate with people that you have Michelson-Morley, you have the Sasnak, the experiments, thank you. The experiments that essentially showed that we were not moving.
Yeah.
I think, and then that's when all the mental math gymnastics started happening, and then Einstein's like, you need dark energy, dark matter, relativity, and it's like, okay, we'll go ahead and give you just 98% of the equation on potential things that we really don't know anything about.
Yeah, now people think that they've conquered it by saying, oh, but all speed is relative, and by saying that, they're saying, well, it's not really there, it's only relative to something else. Well, what's it relative to? Is it relative to the sun and the moon, like the moon also, and then the satellites? I mean, you can't say something is relative without saying that it's real. And so then why invent that speed in the first place if it's not real? You know, all speeds are either real or they're non-existent, they're imagined. And all these things are just calculated on paper. Everything about the heliocentric model works on paper, but if you try and apply that to physical reality, you can step outside and see that the Earth isn't moving, not spinning, not at all.
Well, that's where, is in terms of sharing flat Earth with other people, when I feel like an opportunity to do that, I almost want to get to that simple point of like, do you really think you're moving angular momentum 1,000 miles an hour and you don't feel it at all, like, and you don't think that's a religion?
That's the first thing I ask people when they say, do you think the Earth is flat? And I say, well, in your model then, in your belief that you think is so much more smarter and everything, How fast is the ground beneath your feet moving right now? And they just look at you with the fluoride stare, like they've never even thought about it. And I say, well, according to the heliocentric model, it's over 1,000 miles per hour, and that's just the rotation on the axis. You go and throw in the orbit, what we go every day, about 1.6
not even to
million
mention
miles a day. How can any aeroplane left the ground keep up with something that travels over 1.5 million miles? You know, when this thing can only go 500 miles an hour. It's every single thing about it. Oh, yeah, it's all in an enclosed system. Well, no, it's not. It's in the open air of a vacuum. You can't even have a pressurized atmosphere in a vacuum. Everything about it falls apart the minute you start questioning it. But they'll still believe it anyway because it's too hard to question your own beliefs. It's like the most deeply held religious belief is heliocentrism. So to get them to think about it, that's where you start, and that's where we all start, I think.
I even think there's a value in empathizing. Be like, I understand it's uncomfortable to be divorced of the mainstream herd mentality, you know, to be empathetic about that, because everyone can relate that it's awkward to step out of the main cultural point of view.
For sure. I guess the fact that because I've always been an outspoken critic of all things, like, you know, when 9/11 happened, I was within 3 days. It's an inside job. It's an inside job. You know, I've always been a bit of an outspoken critic of anything because I can just analyse the truth pretty quickly, I think. And so, because I've copped so much flack myself, you know, we call you a fucking idiot. You're, pardon my language, you're a moron. All this that I sort of become preemptively, you know, defensive and antagonistic myself too. So, and I make sort of no apology for that. Yeah, I feel you have to make a bit of a stance somewhere in the line.
All of those people you're up against and we're up against when we have those conversations, whether it be against 9, you know, the buildings coming down, they're all people who just accept mainstream narrative, right? It's just, it's going to be the same thing, whether we're talking about this sickness that's going around now, whether we're talking about the moon, whether it's going to be, they will not look at anything from any kind of objective standpoint, right? It's just like whatever I'm told is the way it is.
The very act of questioning it is to them, it's treason. How could you possibly think our government, who we love and serve and adore and pay our taxes to, how could you possibly think that they would ever do something like that to their own people?
Yeah. You could never perpetrate something that big. It could never be done. You know, it's just,
it's like, if you really knew the way that they thought and what's going through their heads, like to them, we're nothing. We're just like, we're disposable income making things for them to live their life with luxury if they wish. And these people become so powerful, so huge that they can do anything they want. You know, George Bush more or less basically admitted it, you know, straight up.
And I think this is a plan that's been in motion for thousands of years. I think this is a multi-thousand-year plan that has evolved and gotten fine-tuned, and it's been about a small family that's come into, well, you know, one group of related people that have come into power all across the world.
And it's all that predictive programming too, and that's why a lot of people turn to the Bible and say, well, look, this prophecy is coming true, this prophecy is coming true. But when you look at it, it's actually all fear-based stuff, and it's obviously they predicted it and they're making it happen because that's what they want you to think. So which you think it's happening to God's plan rather than to actually their plan. And that's why, I know I'm touching on sketchy ground for a lot of people, but to me, the Bible is it's another method of control and mind control. I don't believe it's actually the good book at all.
Well, how about this, Iron Horse, is that really the devil, so to speak, could not eradicate the narrative of God and Jesus, but he could take books out, he could pervert them. So the Bible, as a lot of Christians do, is they put it as an idol, whereas Jesus was pretty clear that the kingdom of heaven is within you. The word is within you. And that's where I think there's religion as far as, you know, following word for word something exterior versus trusting that the spirit within you will teach you all things.
I think what they've done too is what they've really removed from it all is the goddess energy. Yeah, so anything related to goddess from the Bible got removed. Because I really believe that's what the Last Supper was actually all about. And if you ever read like the Da Vinci Code, and it's all about the Holy Grail, it ends up being that there is no Grail as a cup sitting around. Each and every single one has an individual glass sitting in front of them. There's no actual cup where you think that's what it's all about. But the message that Jesus was teaching was, when we drink the wine, the fruit of the vine work of human hands, it's our spiritual drink. It's the blood of the Mother Earth. And the same again with the bread. It's the fruit of the Mother Earth. It's grown from the earth, and it's what nourishes our bodies. But all of that stuff is left out altogether, and we're supposed to be eating His flesh and blood, not the Mother Earth's.
Yeah, well, it's almost like we're told a more simplified version, just like the firmament, the stationary earth, is depicted in the Bible very pragmatically and not gone into more extensive detail like in Enoch. So it's easy for the deeper meaning layers, as you're suggesting, to kind of be lost.
Yeah. They've totally changed it all. Whereas I think the true message of was, and that's why I think Flat Earth combines it all back together, is because they're realizing the importance of the Earth. It is actually the physical plane, and matter is what gives us the name Mater and Mother. So, that's the trinity of the God, isn't it? It's the Mother Earth, the Father, Son, and then the children of that union is us. So that's how we regain who we are, by knowing that, yes, there is the Father in heaven. That's the Son, obviously. That's his representative. But the Mother Earth is really what we've forgotten. We feel, well, we have to perform a job. We've got to put food on our table. So instead of growing the food, we have to perform a job.
Yeah,
mining, or whatever.
It's a nurturing earth, but yet they tell us it's just this random rock.
That's right. Yeah. And if we keep on living the dream and selling the idea, we'll find another planet B down the track. We can do what we like to trash it. And I think that's the problem. We need to take more care of this one, because this is it. There is no other physical plane. There may be more lands outside of Antarctica, but what's our chance of ever getting pretty small?
We'll never know.
Yeah, I've always wondered, like, where's the heat source past Antarctica? Or if there is a dome, like, does it get some heat source from reflection? Because it's...
Yeah, as I say, I'm in two minds about being a dome. I'm thinking nowadays, considering I think that to the best of my knowledge, I can work out the firmament is only 70 miles or 100 kilometers high. That's actually nothing. It's almost like an ice cream sandwich.
Yeah, we're like two pizza sheets, like.
It wouldn't be enough to be dome shaped. It would just be like an infinite flat sheet of ice. But I think that there are ice walls at Antarctica which may reach up to it, which gives it the appearance to us being dome shaped. But I think the dome bit could be a little bit exaggerated. And I would think that technically there would be more suns out beyond there. I don't see why there wouldn't be more suns. Like,
well,
you consider
I think there's isn't there a scripture? Do you know, Bobby? There's 7 domes, or as far as the Apocrypha.
There's supposed to be seven layers of firmament. Okay. At least I'm defaulting to Sean. I've heard him talk about this on Kingdom in Context.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my understanding. By the way, North as James, but I've had him on before. Super, super knowledgeable on Scripture. I'd love to have you on, brother. I'm trying to wrap up. When I started this, I said I was going to put down an hour, and I let it go. And I know my wife's mad because I put down 3. I'm actually at 3 hours and 3 minutes.
Really? Sorry, bro.
No, it's all right. I actually, you jumped in. I was going to wrap up a while ago, and then you jumped in. We had never got a chance to talk. And if you're going to be around next weekend, I'll jump in a little bit later. So if let's try and meet up and have go deeper down these rabbit holes. I'd love to have you on next weekend if you're going to be around.
Oh, thanks very much,
Justin, Iron Horse, anyone out there. But again, Iron Horse, I'd love to have some more conversation with you. So,
I appreciate it.
I'll be on next Saturday night, everyone. Iron Horse, I'm glad I got to meet you. Thank you so much. All the work you've been doing. I love watching your debates.
Thanks.
Justin, thanks for joining. You're always welcome to join. Everyone's welcome to join. And guys, I'm sorry for cutting it short all of a sudden, but my wife's like knocked on the door like 5 times. So it is time. It is time. James, if you're going to be here next weekend, I promise I will bring you on. Please don't hold it against me. I'm just trying to wrap up, but I'd love to pick your brain as well. So guys, to all, a good night. Until next time.
Yeah, cheers, everyone. Aloha.